Hello, everybody. I am here now as your host. And who am I, you might be wondering? Well, I am RoadkillRevenge, your friendly neighborhood RoadkillRevenge, in fact. And I am so excited to be here to tell you about some of the amazing runs and the amazing cause that we are doing these runs to raise money for here today. If you're new here and if you've never hung out with the Lady Arcaders before, you might be wondering, who are we? And, what sort of stuff do we get up to? Well, Lady Arcaders is an all-women's gaming collective that welcomes all women in gaming. Speedrunners, developers, casual fans, and everything in between. And in addition to our cozy private community, we also run weekly showcases just like this right on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/LadyArcaders, as well as larger charity events throughout the year like this one. And this Lady Arcaders Super Showcase is full of really amazing runs just like the ones that y'all probably just finished watching here. And right upcoming, we have some really amazing incentives that I'd love to draw some of your attention to. If you want to donate towards any of those amazing incentives and donate towards our charity, just go ahead and type !donate in the chat. Some of these upcoming incentives for this Super Mario Maker 3DS run are really incredible, and I would love to see them met. We have an incentive to save or kill Yoshi, which you can choose whether we save Yoshi or kill Yoshi at the end of the run, sort of halfway through the run, and Char will either ride him all the way to the end of the level or drop him in the pit at the end. Personally, as my name might imply, I'm sort of rooting for Yoshi to meet a miserable end, but we will see where that incentive ends up. But in addition to that, we have another incentive to have Char show us some amazing bonus levels for this game. We are a little ways away from meeting that goal, but I am super confident that by the end of this run, we will meet it. So if you want to see those met, go ahead and get those donations in as soon as you can. So with that in mind, I am extremely excited to see the Super Mario Challenge Any Percent run by Charbunny, who is also joined by Lizzyberry on comms. So I am going to go ahead and throw it over to them to get this run on the road.
Hello everyone, super excited to be here. My name is Charbunny and I'm really thrilled to get to showcase Super Mario Maker for Nintendo 3DS Super Mario Challenge Mode. This is on 3DS, this is not the Switch version, this is not the Wii U version, this is on 3DS, it's very fun. And of course, as you just heard, I'm joined by the wonderful Lizzyberry. Lizzy, would you like to say hi to everyone watching?
Hello everyone, I'm Lizzyberry. I'm here hanging out with Char and helping her on comms on some of the more challenging levels so she can get her focus on.
Yes, and we'll see how well that focus works because, there's going to be some levels in here. I'm personally going to be donating $5 per death, but chat, I'm really bad at counting those, so I'm going to need your help to keep track throughout the run, okay? Like, you have a mission for this run. Please help me keep track of how many times I die so I can donate at the end. If you'd like to match me in that at $1 or $5, that would be fantastic, but ideally we get 0. We'll see if that happens. Probably not. I've only managed that twice, but I think we're about ready to get started. So here we are on the screen. I'll count us down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! We've already done our first time save, by the way, which is the fact that we hit the start button and not the start over button. Very, very important. But here we go. Let's get into the story of this game. Right down at the bottom of our screen, we have Mary-O the human and Yamamura the pigeon. They're going to be kind of our guides because this game is unique in that it's really aiming to teach you how to make your own Mario levels. That said, Princess Peach is still kidnapped, so if you're familiar with Mario lore, nothing too surprising there. And of course, when you're thinking about how do I make good Mario levels, the first thing to do is these wonderful combination of buttons called Control-C and Control-V. That's right, the first thing this game teaches you is, hey, you know that one level we made, a whole long time ago? Still works, still great. There's a small difference though. You'll notice we have a little one-way gate there at the bottom. Not every level is exactly the same as it was in its original incarnation, and that's because not every single mechanic works the same way. Despite the fact that this game looks like it's so far straight out of the original Mario Brothers, it's actually using different physics and slightly different mechanics. You can go through pipes both ways in this game, so they do have some small changes. Now, if you were coming here going, what the heck is that? I wanted Mario Maker. Don't worry, the next level's for you. This is where Nintendo goes, okay, now that we taught you the basics of how to Mario, here's what a Mario Maker level looks like, and you can see we've already got enemies stacked on top of each other just because we can, and guess what? We're already gonna have invisible blocks leading up to pathways. Oh, I went through the pipe. Don't worry, pipes are 2 directions, so we can just go back out. That's fine. This is a great start. So with these pipes, there's actually 2 different ways to get through the level, and there's oftentimes different options in some of these levels. Of course, we're going to take the fastest one. So the fastest one for us is to do that block climb, as opposed to going through the underground area, which would have taken us sort of below this area that we're in now. But here's where you can see Mario Maker in action, right? Enemies stacked on top of each other, hidden blocks are indicated by coins, and plenty of other things. Now, something that I mentioned is that the physics for this game don't match the original Mario Brothers, even though the aesthetics so far seem to indicate that that should be the case. Here's where we can see there's actually different themes that this game supports. So the original Mario Brothers, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and now we'll get to see New Super Mario Bros. U. Of course, the physics for all of these are identical, and that's so that as you're playing the game, regardless of what view you have or how the game looks, Mario's always going to jump the same way, so you can get consistent in how you move throughout the level. Thing is, there are certain differences in what Mario is capable of depending on which generation of game he's in. We'll talk more about those later. But our next level is going to be our first castle level. At the end of each of the worlds in this game, there are 18 of them, we are going to get to see Bowser in his castle, and this is going to be the first one of those. Once again, it's a classic throwback level. This is going to be a copy of 1-4 from the original Mario Brothers, but once again, we can't quite speedrun it the same way. Because of how the firebar cycles work in this game, I do actually have to wait here. I can't make it through both of these without dying, so a little bit of patience is required. Here, Bowser's at the end. He was a jerk. I was so close to saving that. That's the worst pattern to get. He's a jerk, so this time through we're gonna get the safety mushroom. I was kind of hoping I could get away with not doing that, but it's fine. So just like in the original game, there is a mushroom here, and we actually do get the mushroom for ILs because you can use the mushroom to damage boost through these fire bars and not have to wait for them. The problem is, in real life, it takes half a second for Mario to sort of power up or power down from a powered up or powered down state, and that's a half second that we lose on the speedrun. So we try to avoid power-ups if we can, but sometimes they're good for safety. And there we go! There's the first world! That was already 1 death, so chat, I hope you're helping me keep track. And now it's time for World 2. Lizzie, Roadkill, how are we feeling so far about Mario?
I'm feeling really good. World 2, I should say, the game tries to strike a balance between good level design and showing off the game mechanics. And World 2 is really where they start to bring that into focus. Especially with 2-1, which I have aptly named, Nintendo feels the need to show off their own pixel art skills. Because as you can see in here, we have this beautiful Mario pixel art that's made out of in-game assets, which is really cool and it's really interesting level design, right? And we have this really interesting mushroom here. It's just Nintendo is showing off that you can design these worlds not necessarily to be hard or challenging, but to just be fun and interesting levels to play as well. In the speedrun aspect, Char is trying to cut all of these corners just as close as she can while avoiding all of these flying Goombas. They don't really understand that they're in water, so they're just floating around. And she pops right through there, which it looks scarier than it is. Apparently, it's just the safest of all safe things that exist. I don't quite believe her on it, but you know, all trust her there. World 2-2, I have aptly named 40 Days and Nights in the Desert. Or 40 seconds, who really knows anymore? Because we're speedrunning this game, right? And this game takes place in the desert world, or the desert setting of Mario 3. If you've played if you have played other Mario games, then you might recognize this from Super Mario Bros. 3. It looks a lot like that first one, but obviously it's not exactly the same. In the speedrun sense here, you're going to notice that as she jumps up here, she has collected the flying leaf, and she does some interesting flying where she keeps mashing the button to twirl because that is faster than regular flying. She then tosses this P-switch that she collected so she doesn't have to have the shell just clear out all those blocks one at a time to progress like you do in the original Mario 3 level. World 2-3, I have aptly named Mario's first trip out of New York City outside of the movie. The way the sprites load in, this game is, or this level is based off of World 1-2 in the original Super Mario Bros. And so you'll notice that very immediately it looks a lot the same. As Char has said several times, this game looks like a Mario game, but it acts very differently. And you'll notice that change is very apparent here, where the way the sprites load in this game, she couldn't get under that 1 pixel wall, or 1 block wall. She had to hit the Koopa shell and follow it along. Fun fact, there is in fact some pseudo warp pipes up there where you would normally find them. They just take you to what looks like the beginning, but then they just take you straight back here. So it looks like you have warped to World 2, 3, or 4 in the original, but you haven't actually. Finally, we have World 2-4, which is a P-switch palace, is what I have named this level. It's here to teach you about the use of the P-switches, and you know that because as soon as you get in here, it forces you to use a P-switch. And then you're sort of stuck in here because of how the P-switches work, because they change, you know, the blocks into coins and coins into blocks. And so she's sort of stuck here for 10 seconds, not able to do anything. But that's okay, because she just collects some coins just to keep busy while we wait. Next, she's going to go ahead and collect this P-switch and do some death-defying jumps here that are absolutely terrifying, and then she's going to do her first, hopefully, Kaizo trick, and jump off of that P-switch, saving a ton of time of having to climb up all those would-be blocks or stairs, so that she can get another P-switch. Here she's sure to not collect that P-switch. She wants to hit it, not collect it, and it's really easy to accidentally collect that. So she hits that, changes everything to blocks, and she's out of the level. I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got that P-switch jump. That is so scary. And if you miss it, you have to wait through the entire P-switch timer at the beginning of the level again. So that was one of the things I was most nervous about in the run. I'm so glad that we were able to get that and show it off for all of you. And also, fun fact, Lizzie did not tell me about all these level names, so I'm kind of dying at some of them. So glad you're here. So that's World 2. The next one we're going to get into, of course, is going to be World 3. Now, the first 4 worlds in this game are really trying to teach you about movement and different mechanics in the game. And the idea behind that is that until you know how to play a Mario level, you're not really going to know how to create a Mario level. In order to upload your levels or share them with friends, you always need to have cleared them first. So this is another one of those throwback levels that they're going to just, hey, let's see if you understand how to do this. You'll notice that we're starting to get a little trickier. There's not as much ground in this one, so lots more spots to fall into pits. But one important difference to note is that the sides of these trees are not solid, which does mean we can clip through them in a way we can't in the original game. This level is slightly safer than it was in previous incarnations, which is very nice for us. Not always the case, but you know what? I'll take the wins when I can get them. I don't mind if every once in a while the game is like, you know, we can let you beat this level. That said, that level's still scary to speedrun because one Goomba likes to just get in the way, but thankfully we're clear through. Speaking of nice levels though, this is another one of those aesthetic levels where it's really trying to showcase a bit of design acumen. So here we're going through like a little townscape. So you can see we've got these buildings with windows, we have a whole bridge here, we got a whole tall tower, there's even little bird songs that will play if you get to the top of the tower, we have this waterfall feature. We of course skip all of it because we're speedrunning, but this is one of those levels that's really fun to sort of look and tour and see how did Nintendo use Mario blocks and Mario items to create a little cozy, almost like Animal Crossing-like space. Still with some enemies, but you know, it's still a platformer. Alright, for our next one, this is going to be another one of the throwback levels, and this one's going to be coming from 3-1 in the original game. But it might look a little different, it might feel a little different, and that's because in the original game, 3-1 was sort of in this nighttime theme, where the background was dark and it was almost like a starry night with white trees. We only have a limited number of backgrounds in this game, I think we've only got like 6, and so instead, the closest they could get to those original aesthetics is by putting it in the underground theme. So this is another example of close but not quite compared to the original. And now it's time for 3-4. 3-4 is going to be our first auto-scroller. Auto-scrollers are definitely a thing in this game because auto-scrollers, when you think about level creation, give you a lot of control over when things spawn in and how they line up. And that's really a cool way to make some very interesting levels. Of course, for speedrunning, it's going to slow us down a little bit. That said, I'm going to get an item that I normally don't get. So normally in this level you'll get a mushroom because you'll see. But I'm specifically going to get it from this first room and not the second one. I usually get it from the second room because I hate this item. This is a weird mushroom and this is Weird Mario. What the heck is this thing? No, Luigi's not in this game. This is the only thing we get for like tall lanky dude that's related to Mario, and it's just this like eldritch abomination against humanity. We get a flutter jump, kind of. We're weirdly tall. It's very obnoxious, and honestly, why did they do this? I don't understand. Just put Luigi in? Of course not. But you can start to see here why we want to get maybe a little bit of a safety item for this level, because there are so many Lakitus on screen. They're shooting all of the fire at us, and it's entirely possible to get a pattern, that was a little sketchy, where you just can't really proceed. So we almost always get a mushroom for safety. It's just not this mushroom because this mushroom is cursed. Thankfully, we're almost done with the level. Again, this being the 4th one of our world, this is going to be our castle level with Bowser. And because we don't carry power-ups forward from level to level, you notice we always start off as Small Mario. Thankfully, that's it. That's all the weird Mario you have to see on your screen. We're done with him. Oh gosh, that brings us into World 4 though. So we just finished World 3, and continuing with this theme of different movement mechanics, World 4 is all about the power of flight. Now this is where we'll start to see some differences between the different versions. Depending on which version I'm playing, so original Mario Brothers, Mario 3's Mario World, or New Super Mario Bros. U, there'll be different items available. The original Mario Brother had not figured out the power of flight yet, so he doesn't get any flying items. In Super Mario Bros. 3, we're actually going to get the tail. You saw that earlier, and this is the level where Nintendo's going to try to get us to use that item. But what if we just didn't? So this is a copycat level, but with some differences. Feel free to try to spot them. So far the same, so far the same. Oh, there's a bit of a difference. Nintendo decided that instead of one Goomba, oh, I'm gonna get stuck there. That's fine, that's a difficult jump. Instead of one Goomba, what if we put like a whole stack of them? And part of that just seems like, yeah, that's Mario Maker for you. But the reason that they did that is because in one of those blocks, which I forgot to jump over because I'm too busy thinking about them. This is fine, don't worry about it. In one of those blocks is actually going to be that leaf power-up that we used earlier that gave us a raccoon tail and the power of flight. Now, the thing is, ideally, you're supposed to use that to get over these enemies. You're kind of supposed to figure out, oh, I need something to get past them, pick up that power-up and learn how to fly with it. But since we already know how to fly and you can get past this level faster without flying, we can just jump over all the enemies instead. That said, it is a tricky set of jumps because that is not the way you're supposed to beat the level, but it does work. Our next power-up is going to be from Super Mario World, which is the very iconic cape power-up. And sure enough, there'll be a few levels in this game where we just get to fly over them. But this is sort of our tutorial. And you can tell that it's a tutorial because there's a whole bunch of coins everywhere. So you can see here's our intended flight path with the coins. We don't necessarily have to follow it. We can kind of do what we want. I'm trying to gain a little bit of height to get over a pipe here at the end. But that's going to be your indication throughout the game that this is a tutorial level. The game's trying to teach you a movement mechanic by showing you the path that it wants you to take. Again, don't really care. It also gives us celebratory fireworks though, which is very nice. Like, it's really encouraging about the fact that you learn how to fly. And this is a very safe level as well. If I were to fall down at any point, I would just go back to the start of that section. I wouldn't be punished with a death for it. Here's the biggest spot where you'll notice we really don't follow the coins, and that's because we don't need to go back. Oh, that's okay. We don't need to go back and forth to get enough height to start off that jump. But here's again, this is a very safe level where it gives you plenty of options to get through it. Nintendo's not trying to wall you, they're trying to teach you. With that, we're getting on to our next power-up, which is the most complicated we'll be using, and that's the propeller. Lizzie, do you mind telling everyone about propellers?
Yes, I have aptly named this level. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's something much less interesting. It's Mario in a propeller hat. I'm a big fan of this level because the propeller movement is really interesting. You get to, when you jump with the propeller hat, then you like shoot way up. But the problem with that is that you fall down very slowly. So you'll notice that Char has different ways of managing that. She uses it, but then she can like zoom down, or sort of like a ground pound kind of deal, where she spins down. And that's really important right here because she's going to go ahead and spin down and get this key, and then she's going to propel her right there and then land as soon as she gets to the door so that she can go through it, because you can't go through that door while you're in the air. She uses the propeller a couple more times to get up here, and then we're at this part where we have to avoid some chain chomps, do a triple jump because who needs a propeller hat when you got one? But we get another one as we damage boost through here. She tried to take a really low jump here and use the propeller as soon as possible to minimize that falling speed right there. Unfortunately, she didn't quite make it initially, but she got it the second time. She moves through this area and then she triple jumps over, and then we have these donuts, and she pops up and propellers up and is out of the level. From here, it's basically just straight to the end. I do want to point out though that at this point she's not taking like the top of the flagpoles like you would in other Mario games. Char, do you want to explain that, why that is?
Yeah, so in this game, if you go to the very top of the flagpole, the flag itself will beat you to the bottom. You do not move at the same speed that it does. And if the flag beats you to the bottom, the game's still gonna wait for you to get to the bottom of the flagpole to move on. So unfortunately, the best thing we can do is get to the bottom first and win that mini race between us and the flag, and that'll save us time overall. With that, this level's pretty straightforward. It's just some twirling in midair, which just sort of stalls our downward momentum. So Roadkill, this is a great time for you to chime in.
Absolutely, and we do have a couple great donations ready to be read off. First off, we have a donation of $40 from Wallaber, who says, "Just wanted to say hi to Charbunny, one of the nicest people I've met through Twitch and speedrunning." We also have a $10 donation from Trainer Anade, who says, "Go Charbunny, go! You got this!" And both of those went towards our incentive to see those bonus levels at the end of this run. We are still a little ways away from meeting that donation, but we are well on track, so go ahead and get those donations in, and be sure that when you do so, you make sure to mark that target and also a poll, because you can actually select both an incentive and a poll with your donation. So it's a 2-for-1, and we'd love to see those awesome results.
Right, and speaking of polls, I believe first, thank you Oliver, thank you Trainer Nade, both wonderful people, really appreciate it. Speaking of polls, I think we have a bid war for this run. I believe we're going between Save or Kill Yoshi. Do you want updating on how that's going?
Absolutely. Currently, Kill Yoshi is in the lead at $60, but Save Yoshi is right behind it at $40. It is still up in the air completely. And I know earlier I felt like I was being a little bit mean. You know, chat made me feel bad about how much I wanted to kill Yoshi, so I think we really need to save Yoshi.
No, we don't. We're definitely, Lizzie and I are super on team kill, right Lizzie?
Absolutely not. I love Yoshi. I think Yoshi needs to be saved. I think there's no world where it is okay to kill the Yoshi.
Him. Why would you do that to him? He does so much for Mario. Why would we kill him? Oh my goodness.
How am I outnumbered on my own speedrun? Chat, please help me. Okay, we'll talk more about Yoshi later. There's definitely reasons why Yoshi is not as kind and not as speedrun friendly as you might think he is as a dinosaur, so we'll talk about him when he gets there. Going back to this run though, World 5 is all about springs. So the previous level you could see how they bounced enemies back and forth, creating difficult areas for us to scale. This one, more of the same, we got more springs going on, but we can actually skip quite a bit of the level here by bringing this spring with us. One thing to note is that in this theme, we can pick up items. We can't as the original Mario Brother, but this is kind of the Kaizo theme, so this is where we're going to see more of our Kaizo tricks, and we could just kind of skip this entire level by throwing it right there. Nintendo knew they put the coins up there, so it's not like we got one over on them, but still very convenient route. And speaking of Kaizo tricks, really 5-3 is the place to show off your Kaizo expression. So Lizzie, do you want to talk about the route we're going to be using for this marathon?
Yes. So in World 5-3, I like to call this level "The Cake is Always a Lie, but the Companion Spring is Not." Alternately titled "MarioWare Inc. Mega Mini Games," because this level has several of those things. We have a companion spring that we collect here, and we keep it the rest of the level. We try and do some Kaizo tricks with it, where she tries to do some wall jumps off of it. If we don't make it, it's really not the end of the world, because you see, we can still just go up there and get it. Now she's going to go ahead and hit this bomb, go ahead and blow this up and collect our companion spring and move on. This is not required. The game sort of expects you to go down through all of these mini games and do all of these things, but because she has collected this companion spring, it makes her life a whole lot easier to go do interesting other things, like get this P-switch, and then just like skip the next couple. The reason this also would be called MarioWare is because you see we're doing all these mini levels, or we're doing 2 of them, but we could have done like 5 or 6 of them, including this bomb one, which was another option as to get here. But because we have the companion spring, that is why it is aptly named "The Cake is Always a Lie, but the companion spring is not."
And the bomb one is so slow. Some of these like mini rooms and mini challenges are just not fast, so I'm so glad that that level works out where we can skip it. And in fact, there's multiple ways to skip that level. So the one that I did is bringing a spring all the way through. That's the safest and sort of best option for marathons. You can also do bomb spin jumps and shell jumps in order to get past some of that ending. So plenty of options to flex your Kaizo skills if you want to come up and learn this run. This one though is going to be our next auto-scroller. One thing to note is that there's different auto-scroller speeds. So in this case, we're going in a slow speed, right? Like screen's kind of just moving, just leisurely walking along, but you'll notice in the second half of this level, which is actually also the first half of this level, it actually goes a lot faster. We're going to see the fast scroll speed. One thing to note is you'll notice I'm bouncing a little bit off the side of the screen if I'm running up against it. the game will not let you run past where the screen is scrolled. This becomes important for a couple different spots, but the key thing here is that anytime I need to get past something, I want to make sure I do it without bouncing on the side of the screen, because that's going to mean I've done it optimally. The key one here is going to be, I'm going to wait at this spot and I'm looking for a specific visual cue to scroll off screen before I start running and jumping. This should line me up to go through this gap at the end without slowing down. Boop, there it is. I was ready for it when it happened. I now need to kill all 3 Bowsers. That is because, similar to most Mario games, Bowser is not a great loser. He's kind of a little sore loser there, and he will throw a temper tantrum if he's still on screen at the end of a level. That loses time, so taking out Bowser helps us save time with that ending. Now that said, one difference that I already called out is we do not carry power-ups over from level to level, so you won't see that nearly as often as you will in other Mario runs, where getting a power-up once means you can save time multiple times. For us, getting a power-up once means you can use it in exactly 1 level, so we don't always get to make that happen. With this, we're moving on from the Spring World, which is World 5, into World 6, which is Things That Bounce You, which is very similar and will in fact include additional springs. But this time we're no longer going to be in the Mario World theme, meaning we may not always be able to pick them up. So first off here, we do see our springs again, but now we are sort of the OG Mario brother, and this guy cannot lift up items. He has not done his workouts, he does not have any upper body strength, only can jump, so we cannot pick up any of these springs as we go through. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little fun. So I'm picking this up because we're going to damage boost here through the fireballs at the end and go underneath the last spring. Barely you can fit between that spring and the platform, and that saves time because jumping on a spring slows you down. Jumping under a spring does not. So a little scary there at the end, but there's some great visual cues to line that one up. Our next level is going to be 6-2, and we're going to be looking at another type of thing that can bounce Mario around, and that's going to be note blocks. Note blocks, if you've seen them before, you know what to expect. If not, they're blocks that look like notes, and you can jump on them and they're very bouncy. With this one, there's a ton of Goombas that are going to be running around, so we're going to try hard to land on a whole bunch of them because this looks cool. This is not the only way to get through that level. There are so many ways to get through that section without dying and just by holding right, basically. And that's my favorite because you get to bounce on Goombas and sort of dance along midair. So I like the style points that that particular route provides. Next level, though, is the opposite of style points. This is 6-3, and it's one of the longest levels in the game and not one of the funnest ones. So the very first thing I need to do is try to land a trick that's a little scary, which is to jump across this chasm before the screen scrolls. There we go. All right, this is fine. And that saves a little bit of time. And this is our first instance of what I would call a platform scroller. It's also an auto scroller, which just makes it even worse. But for those not familiar, a platform scroller is a level where essentially you are supposed to follow a platform throughout. You'll notice there's no safe ground in this section. I can't go ahead of this without getting stuck or getting tossed into the pits below, which would be death. So that's not exactly ideal. I can get a little bit far ahead of it, but I'm kind of just limited until it comes back and catches up with me. Now the thing with platform scrollers is that that's only true up until where the transition happens. So right now I'm sort of in the subworld, there'll be a point where we can switch back to the overworld. The sooner I make that transition, the more time that I save. And so platform scrollers end up being the worst of both worlds. They're very long because they're very auto-scroller-y, but they have one big death-defying jump at the end of each section that if you miss it, you lose all of this time. So for this first one, we're gonna play things pretty safe because this is just such a level to play over. But later on, keep your eyes peeled for 15-4, where I'll be going for 2 of those death-defying jumps, both of which are incredibly tricky to pull off. So for this one, we're playing it a little bit safe. I'm waiting for about 2 of these donuts to fall down, and that's a good sign that I can make it safely. Would now be a good time for a donation? Yep, we're about to get in the second half, so I'm just gonna grab this checkpoint, and then yep, go ahead.
Awesome. So we got a $50 donation from Ignorant Spoon, who just says, "What's up, Lady Arcader Super Show 2023, and what is up with you as well?" And once again, that donation went towards the target to see these bonus levels at the end of this run, and it also is one of those donations that went towards killing Yoshi. Now we are about, let me see if I can math, $80 away from that incentive to see those bonus levels, and let me tell you, chat, I've seen some of these bonus levels. They are really interesting and stylish, and I know you're going to love to see them. So please go ahead and try and get those donations in the next hour so we can see that amazing showcase.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for donating. Thank you for donating to a very good cause, both in terms of the charity and in terms of the bid war that you chose. Appreciated. And yes, the bonus levels that we're working towards come from what's known as World 19, or the bonus world. So this category that we're running is sort of the story mode of the game, and it comes with 18 worlds, which is like almost 90 levels. But there's actually actually 100 levels in total in the game, and the last 12 come in terms of World 19, which is a bonus world that you only unlock by clearing 100% of a lot of the other levels. It's really cool. There's a lot of stuff that you won't see elsewhere. I've got some neat things planned, so I really hope we get to see it. It'd be super exciting to unlock that one, so I hope that happens. But of course, we have plenty more Mario before we get to that point. Our next level is going to be 6-4. I don't know why I keep telling you all the number, you know how to count, but 6-4 anyway, and this is going to be one of the highest actions per minute. Not necessarily because it's full of wild tricks and, you know, out there jumps, but because giving Mario a concussion is the fastest way to complete this level. So you'll see that I'm ducking a lot in these 1-block high spaces over ice. Jumping and crashing Mario's head into the ceiling speeds me up anytime I'm in one of these 1-block wide spaces. So you'll hear the sound effect a lot for poor Mario getting his skull bashed in, which is not exactly polite, not exactly great, but it is fast, and Mario doesn't seem to be harmed by this ordeal. He still gets to the end of the level just fine, so I guess we're good. And the sad thing about this, too, is that this is the level where we bash Mario's head a bunch of times, you know, get the concussion, everything. The entire next world, all of World 7, is about the Shelmet item, which is a helmet. You think you could have given us that one level sooner, Nintendo? To be fair, they weren't anticipating the speedrun when they constructed the level order. So World 6, we managed to finish all the bounciness, and now we're going to go into the Shelmet item. So the Shelmet is a beautiful, beautiful item in this game, where it gives us a little helmet on our head. Not only does that protect us from attacks that are coming in from above, so they'll just kind of destroy off the Shelmet, but it's what we call a free power-up or a free safety item. Normally, if I get a mushroom, I have to spend half a second powering up or powering down, but when I try to pick up the Shelmet, we'll see if I can get it, it's really a weird angle. Nope, that's okay. When you pick up or drop a Shelmet, it actually doesn't take up any real time at all. It just goes on and off instantly. You'll see it again a little bit later. For now, though, we get to do the backup. There we go, I picked up the Shelmet, no in-game delay for it, unlike what you just saw with the mushroom itself. That's actually really helpful for us because it means we can pick up those items whenever we see them, as long as they're in our route without losing any time. Also, shoutouts to Chain Chomps, that was our Chain Chomp level. Feel free to try to count how many Chain Chomps there were there, there's a lot. Our next one here is going to give us even more of an idea of what else can the Shelmet protect us against. So the first level was like, great, the Shelmet protects you against Chain Chomps. Awesome, I got it, Nintendo. This next level is, but did you know, the level, and it's here's everything else it can protect you against. So we just get this giant stack of enemies throwing all of the projectiles at us, and the game is just showing us that our Shelmet protects us from them. Now, it's very important to keep your Shelmet in this level because this is a nightmare to deal with if you don't have your head protection on. So very key item to keep. So we're going to be especially careful here at the end because as the enemies fall down, you can see that their items get lower on screen, so we have to watch out for that. But with that, we get introduced the best character in this game. I hope everyone in chat is ready. Please say hi to Bob the One-Up Mushroom. Bob the One-Up Mushroom is my favorite character in possibly all of Mario, only in this level, and look at how long Bob is on screen for. Most of the items, most of the enemies in this game, they're gone after a fleeting hello or goodbye. But Bob's sticking with us. You know, in a lot of Mario games, how Peach will reach out and say hi or like promise to bake you a cake or something? Yeah, no, not in this game. We've been on our own for like a whole bunch of time now, and Bob is the only one who's really cheering us on through this whole adventure, so shout outs to Bob. If I can get a hi Bob from Lizzie and Roadkill, that'd be great.
Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Thank you. Alright, Lizzie, do you want to talk about this next level? Because it's going to be hopefully a little interesting.
Yes, level 7-3, in which Bowser found a sale on Hammer Bros at Villains R Us. You'll notice as we get through this level that there are a lot of Hammer Bros. There's 2, that most of them don't really cause an issue. There's 3, 4, 5, 6. Up here we're at 8 now, and then she just sort of runs by him up until this point where she jumps up above the screen and jumps on top of them to just move through this level incredibly quickly. It's super awesome.
And it's not entirely consistent either. It's mostly consistent, but it's really cool, and so I'm so glad that worked because that's a brand new strat. I have never pulled that off on stream before, so I'm really excited that you all got to see it here today. With that, 7-4 is going to be our last sort of the Shelmet world, and this one is going to be teaching us how to navigate, of course, through Bowser's Castle using the power of Shelmets. So once again, incredibly helpful that I can pick up the Shelmet without slowing down. Notice it's on my head, I never lost any time, meaning it is entirely free to grab. In other levels we might try to avoid the power-ups, but in this one, it's free, it's right there. We're gonna try to skip this checkpoint if we can. I didn't quite line that up correctly. It's very tricky too, but the checkpoint does give you a power-up if you don't have one, so skipping checkpoints can be beneficial, although there's always the risk-reward with it, right? If I skip a checkpoint, I don't have that checkpoint, and if I die later on in the level, now things are looking a little bit sketchy. That's a fairly safe level to skip the checkpoint for because you have a power-up and you're just trying to dodge a final Bowser. There is one later on at the very last world that I'm going to be going for that's brand new, and it's going to be heart-pounding, so we'll see how that one goes when we get there. But that clears out World 7. That brings us, of course, into World 8. World 8 is going to be our first world that is not 4 levels long, so everything up until this point, levels 1 through 4, and then you're done. But as we move into this next map screen, you'll notice that we suddenly have 6 levels to deal with. The number of levels per world is variable in this game, so that is something that we kind of have to take into account as we're planning stuff out. The longest world is 19 with the 12 levels. The longest in this run is going to be the last 2 with 8 levels each. Here we get our propeller back again. Once again, I'm trying to keep it close to the ground because the more time I spend spinning around, the slower I might be going. So here I'm going to try to set up for a triple jump to just barely sort of clear that staircase, dodge the boot, and then I'm going to try to catch at least a little bit of this conveyor belt, just a little bit. And that's because anytime a conveyor belt is moving forward, it's actually going to give us a boost in momentum, versus if it's moving backwards. Obviously we want to avoid those in a speedrun where we're primarily moving to the right. That'll show up a bit more in some other levels as well. Our next level is going to be our introduction to the boot. The boot is a power-up you might remember from Super Mario Bros. 3. It was one of my favorites in that game. It did not show up very often in that game. I really wish it had more screen time. But we get to use it in this level, but it's a little scarier than you might think. So this level is one of the levels that has 2 different routes. You can go this bottom route, or you can go this top route. The top route is more difficult, but it's faster. Now it's faster by an in-game time of, I believe, 7-ish seconds. Now because of pipe transitions, that saves exactly 1 second overall in the speedrun, but guess what? We're doing it anyway. So here is our boot. You'll notice that when I move left and right, it sort of bounces up and down, and it makes us invulnerable to these enemies with spikes on them. The boot, similar to the helmet, protects our feet. So helmet protected our head, boot protects our feet. Now you might notice that there is no ground on this part of the level. These jumps are terrifying. This was one of the hardest levels to do casually for me because I tried to take this route. And oh gosh, is this a nightmare. The bottom route, you get a leaf power-up, you can just sort of flutter down onto the enemies, but nope, this way we get a boot, which is already a bit slippery to control. Here though is my favorite hitbox in the game. Watch this go right through Mario's head, no damage whatsoever, best haircut. It turns out our hitbox while we're in the boot is actually a bit lower on screen than where Mario's head is, so we can have enemies go through our noggin, looking like we should take damage and actually not do any damage to us. Here we get these 2 1-ups, not because we need them, but because it actually gives us the 100% credit for this level. At the end of this level, watch on the screen for 2 medals that will appear. And I've already gotten them so you won't see an animation, but each level has 2 different challenges in it, and getting those is how you get 100% instead of any percent. So get at least 1-up mushroom and reach the goal via the sub area. We did both of those things. This one, 8-3, this is not the one I was thinking about. There's a lot of levels in this game, so I try to keep track of them all. This is going to be our next auto-scroller, but it is anything but relaxing. And that's because we're in the faster scrolling speed. So not the fastest, but still one where I'm going to bonk my nose on stuff if I'm not careful. The key here is that we want to optimize our transition. So I want to get to this pipe without bouncing, and then try to get it in as soon as possible. Now I'm going to be trying to cut these pretty close, so I won't always get them, but they're fun to go for. The way that we do this depends on which room we're in. So for this room, I'm going to wait a little bit and try to hit the corner of that POW, and that's going to make it so I get to this door in time. In this one, I'm not so much worried about the screen as I'm worried about the POW, so I'm going to activate it and move on as quickly as possible. But here, I've got plenty of room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up on a specific spot, which is this cloud. I'm going to watch for that cannon to hit the edge of the screen, and that's when I'm going to start running. That lines me up with when the pipe appears on screen, so I can go through it as soon as possible. This next one, watch for this row of coins to go off screen, and I'm going to stand under this one. So I'm watching for one thing to leave the screen, lining myself up at a different spot, and using that as my cue for when to run. That one's terrifying because there is nothing but death to the right of that pipe, so you do have to make sure you're confident in that particular cue if you want to get through that level without dying. So very important to be tracking where you're standing, what's moving off screen, and making sure you give yourself maybe a little bit of safety if you're in the middle of a marathon run. This next level is going to be a throwback level, but it's from a game that I actually haven't mentioned so far on stream. So chat, this is your chance to show off your Mario skills. Let me know what level this, or what game this level is from, and I'll call it out at the end for everyone. There's a weird mushroom again, by the way. We're not getting it. We are so done with those. But we are going to get a star, and that's because the star helps us move, I believe, a pixel faster every single frame, and that really adds up. Even though we had to slow down a bit to get the star, I'm focusing because it's actually hard to move with the star because it moves so much faster. Even though we had to slow down to get the star, it saves us enough time over the course of the rest of the level to still be worth it. Now, for anyone who guessed in chat, if you guessed Lost Levels, you are correct. That did share the same physics engine as the original Mario Brothers, so it makes sense that it could appear in that same theme, but that is not one of the ones that you would normally think about when you think about this game. But speaking of this game and sort of its relatives, maybe the Mario Maker that came out on the Switch, this is where you can see some of the differences between this game and its successor. And that is that spike hitboxes in this game are just so much nicer. That doesn't mean this level is easy by any means, or that this level is free or not scary, but you'll notice I can cut these spikes a lot closer than you could on the sequel to this game. Thankfully, this one still lets us cut corners a little bit more. But that level is still scary to deal with, but possible to get through without dying. Our next level is going to be another one where we can actually get the 100% challenge, even though we're doing any percent. So again, there are 2 medals for each of these levels, and it's optional to get those medals in any percent. For 100%, we would need to get both of them. There's a Goomba medal and a Bowser medal. So Goomba medal is get at least 3 lives and then reach the goal. Bowser medals get at least 6 lives. Now, there are no 1-up mushrooms in this level, so it might look confusing at first as to how to do that, but in fact, if you bounce on a bunch of enemies in a row, you might know that you rack up sort of this little combo. And there's exactly enough enemies in 2 different groups, first Goombas and then Wigglers, to give us 3 1-ups at the end of our combo for each. Now, again, this is very unnecessary for an any percent run that we're doing today, but I have found that if I don't have a pre-planned route for these levels, for these auto-scrollers, I start to try to do fancy stuff. And trying to do fancy stuff is improvising, and when I improvise, a lot of times I end up in that lava. So I tend to have a plan for every single auto-scroller, just so I'm consistently doing something and not trying to play chicken with a Goomba and maybe losing out on that. With that though, that gets us through 8 worlds already of this game, which is already enough for kind of a complete Mario game. So team, how are we doing? How are we feeling? Are we holding up?
I'm doing so good.
Yay! Roadkill, you still doing alright over there too?
I am in awe of just how fast you are blazing through these levels.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. Chat, I hope you're having a great time as well, and we are starting World 9 now. So World 9 is going to start off with another level borrowed from another game. So this is going to be the first airship from Super Mario Bros. 3, which was kind of like the boss levels in those games. What I'm doing now is I'm going right up next to this bullet bill launcher so it can't fire. It's going to wait for me until I move off, and I'm going to use it to give me a bullet bill to get up on top of this platform. And then I kind of just chill up here. See, in the original Mario Bros. 3, if you're speedrunning that game, you're likely in the bottom section with all of that deadly stuff below, because you want to get power-ups to fight the first boss in that game. You'd be fighting one of the Koopalings, and you'd be probably trying to kill it with fire. In this game, not only do we not carry our power-ups over, so it's not really worth it, but our boss fight is actually optional. Koopalings were not added in until Super Mario Maker 2, and in this game instead we just have Bowser Jr. But, in a decision I don't quite understand, Nintendo decided that we didn't need to fight Bowser Jr. either, so we could just leave. We don't need to be in that room. You do get 100% credit by beating Bowser Jr. with the Leaf power-up specifically, but for any percent, we don't have to worry about that Bowser Jr., not an issue whatsoever. We will have to worry about some later on. There's plenty of Bowser Jr.'s in this game. Our next level is going to be another one of those aesthetic type ones where it's really trying to highlight some of the ways that you can create atmosphere within a speedrun. This one is my favorite of the atmosphere levels because it reminds me of Luigi's Mansion. This is our little haunted mansion. So the first thing I'm trying to do is do 1-frame jumps on those conveyors to avoid slowing down, and then we get paintings attacking us and coming to life, which is so cool. And then we get this incredible boo art, and then we're kind of just done with the stage. That's it, that's the whole stage. In terms of the speedrun, it's really straightforward. In terms of the creativity in the level, a little bit more complex. But our next level is one that's complex no matter which way you look at it. So Lizzie, would you like to talk about 9-3?
Yes, 9-3 is the world where they have introduced to us the mechanic of wall jumps. So I have aptly named this level Sekiro, Mario Jumps Twice, or more sometimes.
I need you to name every level in existence. These are too good.
So this is another one of those training levels where it shows you the coin path that you can go. Charbunny's not really going to follow that a lot of the time because we know where to go, we know how the game works, we know how the mechanics work, so she follows it sort of to a point, but really she's just trying to get through this as quick as possible. You'll know that because she just nearly runs herself into that swamp, but then she goes ahead and grabs a mushroom so that she can damage boost through there, make her way following the coins, just do some more wall jumps, and make her way to the ending, which is just right over here.
Yes, there are a lot of ways to die on that level, surprisingly for it being a tutorial level, but thankfully there's a way through all of that that's still fast, so we can go ahead and take that route. Our next one, 9-4. It's pretty short, but this is one of those examples of something that we haven't talked about yet, which is the difference between an individual level and a full game run. So I'm running the full game, which is our category for today. And what I want you to look out for is a cloud that I'm going to go by at the top of the screen. So up here, look, there's a cloud, look, there's a pipe. That's actually the fastest way through the level for the individual level. Individual level meaning you speedrun one level at a time as opposed to the full game. The reason for that is because when we speedrun the full game, we use real time, the time that we all live in, time the timer's going in. But for ILs, we use the in-game timer instead, and the in-game timer pauses on screen transitions, making that section and that little shortcut faster, but not saving us time in real time. So there's a couple levels like that, which is kind of fun. Our next level, 9-5, is going to be our only instance of the old-fashioned airship. They actually backported the airship theme to the original Mario Brothers with a custom theme. It's so cool, but it is an auto-scroller. So, Roadkill, if you would like to chime in, let us know how things are going on your end. That'd be fantastic.
Would I ever, because this Yoshi poll is getting spicy, let me tell ya. So we got a $25 donation from our own Zokbun, who says, Yoshi hops and so do bunnies. So here's the donation to Saving Yoshi. Good luck to Char on the run, and thank you for all of these fantastic sound effects that I never expected from a Mario game.
Zokbun, you can't use bunnies against me like that. This isn't fair. Sorry, please continue.
That donation put Save Yoshi in the lead. However, shortly after, we got a $10 donation from Trainer Anade, who says, Save Yoshi or save time? What do you think, chat? And that donation put Kill Yoshi right back in the lead with a very, very narrow margin of $5. So if you would like to change the results of this poll and have us save our dear friend Yoshi, after all, I really believe you should, chat. Go ahead and type !donate in the chat and be sure to select that option on our polls. We also still have the target open to see the bonus levels at the end of this run. There's less than an hour left for that, so be sure to get those donations in. There's $45 left until we meet that incentive. I am fully confident we can get there, and I am going to be very, very excited to see those.
Only $45 left. Everyone out there, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm so excited to show those levels, so I really hope we can make it happen. And thank you for keeping Killing Yoshi in the lead. I'm so happy about that. Lizzie, isn't this exciting?
For now.
For now, wow.
This is the worst day ever.
Wow, okay. I think it's
I need
fun.
Yoshi to be saved. There's a lot of reasons why. We'll go into it later, but we need to save Yoshi.
Goodness, we really
Yoshi
don't.
works so hard in this run.
We so don't. That said, do you want to talk about 9-6? 9-6 is a bit of a tricky one, so if you want to cover this, that'd be fantastic.
Yes, I have named level 9-6 when treadmills attack. You'll see that when we get in there, treadmills are going to be going off to, they're going to be going to the left, and Charbunny is running to the right. Now, obviously, that's a problem because you want to try and go fast, and if the treadmills are running the opposite direction, that slows things down. See, here's these treadmills. So because of that, see, slow movement. Because of that, she's going to try and jump over the treadmills. She's going to do a death-defying jump there, and she's out of the level.
Yes, those treadmills, that sequence can be very tricky, but that's why we bring the shell to the end, is if we bring the shell to the end instead of wearing it, we can actually jump off of it and get just enough height to cross that final barrier. With that, Lizzie, do you want to also take on 9-7?
I do. 9-7 I have nicknamed Bowser's Garden. Oh. You won't really see much of it, but Bowser has put a whole bunch of warp pipes in here with all of these piranha plants that come out of them. And so because of that, I have named this Bowser's Garden. Char's going to take an extremely tight jump right there to get over that gap. If you miss that, she has to go down into this like water area and float all the way back to the beginning. It takes forever. So getting that jump was just absolutely incredible. And then she's out of the level.
Yeah, and that's one of those where if you go fast, the enemies can't catch you. But if you slow down at all in that section with all the green pipes, Piranha plants are in every single one of them, and it becomes incredibly difficult to make it to the end. But with that, we get the castle level 9-8. This is another one of our platform scrollers. Thankfully, the jumps at the end aren't quite so bad, but this level introduces us to what we call the fast lava lift, which is these little blue skulls. Now, the thing to note is that every single one of these skulls is an independent platform, and you can absolutely fall through them. If they are on a diagonal, if they're not quite lining up, you can absolutely just crash right through them and fall to your death. So staying on them is actually much trickier than it looks, and takes a lot more stationary movement than you might otherwise expect. So you'll notice that I don't do too much moving around once I get on top of them, and I try to land pretty straight onto them when I'm jumping across. So if you see me jumping from one to the other, I usually try to come at it from a very vertical angle to make sure I'm not running or continuing to move as I cross them. When they're aligned flat like this, it's pretty safe. Otherwise, I don't want to move anywhere, not my job. Here we're going to count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and after the 4th fireball is when we can make this final platform scroller-esque jump, where we sort of skip the ending and get a little bit farther ahead of where the platform was going to let us be. That brings us to the end of World 9, so there we go, doing pretty well. Chat, I hope you're remembering to stay hydrated. That's what I'm about to do, because it's always good to remember to hydrate.
Can I just say that you counting 1, 2, 3, 4 really reminded me of your Love 3 run a week or two ago, where you're getting the secret in like World 2 or 3, wherever it is, and you have to do the jump rope.
Yep. This is not the end of me counting things out loud in this speedrun either. I have to count a bomb later on, and it's one of the scariest things to count because it's so easy to lose track. You wouldn't think so, but if you look away from a bomb that's flashing for just a second and you look back, you might miss one of the cycles. So that's going to be a scary one, but that's coming up way later. Instead, we start off with level 10-1. Now, here's the thing. This level gets really scary for a Mario level, so if you're not used to things, just like make sure you're seated, holding on, because we are about to go left. We're going left in a Mario game. What the heck is this? Why is Mario going in this direction? This isn't the direction he's supposed to be going. Why are we going backwards? This is so unusual. I don't know how to react to this. Oh my goodness. I don't think this is going to make me seasick. This doesn't even make sense. And, oh my goodness. Okay. The left part's done. Lizzie, you doing okay? You still here with me?
It was really touch and go there for a moment,
Okay.
but we made it.
I am so glad. Roadkill, you made it through the other side of that level too. You're unharmed? Okay.
Shaky.
If you need to take a second, just breathe, sit down, it's okay. But whew, we got through that level. That one just going left in a Mario game, like, come on, what in the world? That's actually from Mario 3, by the way, so that's not the first time you've had to go left in a Mario game. But the fact that they chose that to bring back, like, I don't know, kind of questioning Nintendo's decisions on this one. 10-2, though, is a little tricky as well. Lizzie, would you like to talk about this one?
Yes, 10-2 I have named Mario, Mario goes to the mall for shoes. Because in this level, Bowser has just given Mario just all the shoes we could ever ask for. You see, we get these nice snow boots here, and when Char ground pounds, it sends out 2 little ghost attack wave, shockwave things, which is really important because she's able to use that to clear out those boots right there, those high heel boots. Chat, I'm gonna need to know your favorite type of shoes in this game. Is it the snow shoes, those boots, or is it the coin shoe that she just ran straight through? The interesting thing about boots is that they give you sort of like a pseudo double jump, because when you exit a shoe, then you can jump again, and that allows her to get up and skip a cycle there, and allows us to just make it right through this level super quick. Really importantly, Char has held on to her power-up of being big there, so that she can damage boots through those enemies and make it safely to the end of the level.
Exactly, yeah. Those are random Sledge Brothers at the end. There's not a ton of RNG in this game, but it does show up, and that's one of those spots where you don't want to die to something random after you've gotten this far in the game. So very good to bring your safety mushroom all the way to the end of that level. If you're a fan of boots, by the way, definitely donate for those bonus levels. One of them contains every single boot in the entire game, and there's 8 of them. With this one, though, this is our next throwback level. It shows up pretty late. There is Yoshi. We're going to ignore him. We don't need him for this level. Bye, Yoshi. We'll see him on the next one, though, so if you are one of those Yoshi fans out there, don't worry, we'll see him again soon. But this level being a throwback, being so late in the game is kind of interesting, but this is not too challenging for us in speedrun. We just have to get over that enemy at the end. It is random, but it's very consistent to jump over, so not too much of a concern. But here is where I'm just going to go and let all of you know why Yoshi is a problem in speedrunning. Right? I know, you might think he's adorable, you might think he's helpful even, but he is, and I cannot emphasize this enough, he is slow. And we are speedrunners. We don't want to go slow, we want to go fast. So Yoshi being slow and us wanting to go fast kind of opposites here. So the first thing that's slow about Yoshi is the fact that he doesn't show up right away. He kind of sleeps in, he didn't set his alarm, so once his egg is on screen, it will take a few seconds for him to actually spawn in. And in those few seconds, you can't interact with him, so I just kind of have to wait politely until Yoshi's finished getting ready. The next thing is, when I run with Yoshi and I get off, you'll notice I just stopped. I lost all my momentum, and in fact, when I get onto Yoshi as well, same thing happens. Losing your momentum in a game where you want to run a whole bunch, not exactly ideal. The last reason here is that when we flutter with Yoshi, he's got this little flutter, it actually moves way slower than your normal jumping speed, similar to the propellers that we already talked about earlier. So if I'm trying to run and flutter with Yoshi, if I'm jumping, I actually need to try to stop jumping before I hit that flutter animation to save the most time. The one thing Yoshi does have going for him is in an auto-scroller like this, where I don't have to worry about momentum. He does count as a free hit, so he's safe and free to pick up in this level. But gosh, is he slow. Right, Lizzie? Have I convinced you yet that Yoshi is way too slow to be a valuable part of the speedrun?
Mario number 1!
No, you haven't. You know, those are all a bunch of reasons why you think that he's slow,
Yes.
but I really think that you're just looking at it with the wrong frame of mind.
Oh, okay.
Which is why I've named level 11-1 the one where Yoshi gets left behind, because it's really sad that she leaves him behind. Char has just given you just like a million reasons why she thinks that Yoshi is slow, and I think she's wrong in just about every way.
Wow.
When Yoshi gets up, he's really excited to see Mario, and so he wants to do like a proper introduction, right? That's why there's that time loss there, because Yoshi's just super excited to see Mario. When Mario gets off, Yoshi is obviously devastated, and like that, like Mario has to like do that whole look behind sort of, you know, in romance things where like they're given the sad look behind because that's what Mario's sad to leave Yoshi behind.
Why is this a romance novel now?
Yoshi tries just so hard to help Mario out. That's why Yoshi gives Mario a free hit. And Yoshi has like a little flutter jump that Yoshi's going to show off later. That's just Yoshi giving everything to Mario and Char just having none of it and leaving him behind in every opportunity she gets. And I think it's awful.
Wow. Okay, you know what? The good news is, chat, you get to vote. You get to ultimately decide Yoshi's fate for level 18-6, which is the last level that Yoshi shows up in the game. I think we should just sort of dump him into a pit. Obviously, Lizzie has some opinions to the contrary, but your votes are ultimately going to decide his fate. So make sure you donate, make sure you get it towards that bid war in order to make sure those count. But again, we're gonna kill the Yoshi. Here is our next level where we just get to do a classic Super Mario World speedrun and just skip the whole thing. We just get to fly over the top of it, and Nintendo knew this. Again, we didn't outsmart them on this level. There's coins up here to celebrate the fact that you figured out you could skip the level itself. There's a whole subworld you can go through. There's a whole bunch of really cool platforming you get to do for that, but it's just not as fast as taking a cape and taking to the skies. So we just kind of skip it, get to the end, and there we go. Classic Mario World, classic Cape Mario, classic speedrunning. Just never mind, we don't feel like having this level. Our next one here, 11-3, is going to be another auto-scroller. Key thing here is just that we need to be careful about the dry bones at the end, but otherwise, we're just kind of going through having fun. I'm going to try to avoid picking up a safety mushroom, so taking things a little riskier, but we'll see how that goes. With that, the Roadkill, anything you'd like to chime in with?
Let's go!
I definitely would, because as these donations are coming in for saving Yoshi or for killing Yoshi, depending on how much taste you have, I'd like to just remind us about the charity for which we are raising money for on this this lovely Thursday. So yeah, CARE is the charity that we are partnered with. They work around the globe to save lives, defeat poverty, and achieve social justice. They seek a world of hope, inclusion, and social justice where poverty has been overcome and all people live with dignity and security. Founded in 1945, today CARE works in 110 countries, focused on girls and women in their efforts because they are disproportionately affected by poverty and are key to fighting it. So if you're interested in donating towards this cause, go ahead and type !donate in the chat, and as you know, some handy little something back for you, you get to see some amazing extra Mario levels and decide Yoshi's fate. So make sure you get those donations in as soon as you can.
Yeah, I am so excited about the cause we're raising money for. This is just such a fantastic thing that we can help improve. I'm just it's just so cool. This event is really cool. There are so many really cool speedruns this week. I'm really excited to be a part of it. There's plenty more today. We're just getting started. And of course, I needed the safety mushroom because dry bones are a jerk. They just are. I was in the middle of a nice sentiment and then the dry bone decided to not. Anyway, dry bones are one of my personal least favorite enemies in this game, and since I died and I'm redoing this level, I'm just going to talk about how bad they are. So, the thing with dry bones is that they're really awkward in terms of where their hitbox is. You would think, like with most Mario enemies, when you think about it, you try to land on their head, right? Like think about Bowser. Well, actually Bowser's a bad example. Think about Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. doesn't have his horns yet, so he's a little bit more vulnerable. When you bounce on Bowser Jr., you specifically hit the top of his noggin, right? That's a vulnerable spot for him, and that makes a lot of sense, that the enemy's head is kind of what you're aiming for. But as it turns out, for the dry bones, it's not so much their head as it is the nape of their neck. Like the spot where their head meets their shell is specifically the spot that I should be aiming to hit, or a little bit closer to their shell. So I kept dying so many times on this level because I kept trying to land on the dry bone's head, and that just does not work. And I don't know why it took me so long to figure out otherwise, but there we go. That's just how this game rolls. One thing to note is
that a big dry bones thing or a all dry bones thing?
I'm pretty sure it's an all dry bones thing, but the smaller ones are small enough that you never have to worry about the hitbox. Right, like if I'm landing on their head, at least one of my feet is on their shell anyway, so it doesn't make too much of a difference. But for these chunky fellows, that's where landing on their head, which is what I did last time, takes me out of the action. So that's where having the safety mushroom can be nice. It does cost me half a second, but as you can see, if it prevents a death, sometimes it's worth it. Unfortunately, when a little risky, it didn't quite work out. But that's okay, we got through the level the second time. We'll get our revenge on the dry bones a little bit later on, so don't need to worry about that. With that brings us to 10-4, and this is an interesting, 11-4. This is an interesting level where we actually have options on which route to take. There's 3 different options we'll be presented with at the start of the level, and we, being cool, we're going to take the hardest option. That is much less because we're actually trying to show off, and much more because this is the fastest moving platform. So this platform starts the furthest back in the level, but it is a fast lava lift, and in case the name wasn't obvious, it is fairly fast. So it is going to get us to the end of the level the fastest. But one thing that's really cool about how Nintendo set this level up is the 3 difficulties aren't just about how fast the platforms move, but about what route they take. So here, you'll notice that we make some of these little jumps. The rails aren't always connected, but we go far enough to get across some of these gaps. So with this diamond at the end, we make it up into this diamond and do a full loop. If you're on the slowest platform, you actually skip this part of the level. It's just not fast enough as a platform to make that jump. Again, this platform moves fast enough that it's still worth doing even though the route that we take through the level is longer, so that's what we do here. This is also one of the only times we don't finish the level on a castle theme. I never remember to split this one as a result, but we went through the castle, we still saw our Bowser in the meantime, so hopefully it still lives up to what we're expecting. With that, though, comes World 12. So for a while at the beginning of the game, we had worlds that had consistent themes. We had a world about flying, a world about springs, a world about things that bounce that weren't springs, and also were springs. This is when we get a little bit back into having level themes, and the theme for World 12 is none other than the Koopa Clown Car. Now, having a Koopa Clown Car world in any game is a little bit ridiculous, but of course, this is Mario Maker, that's an item, let's showcase how to use it. So the first thing to talk about is the fact that it's not fast. We won't see it right away, but the other thing to note is that enemies can be in these as well. So you'll see that we're sort of navigating through the beginning. You can see a whole bunch of other things in the clown car before we sort of get our first one right here. I'm going to go underneath the stage because I don't want to run into stuff, so I'm just going to kind of keep like Mario's hat on screen. But like I said, these are slow, so as soon as I get a chance to jump out of it, I'm going to do so. That's scary though, because as you can see, that is not a super safe jump. There is a lot of death there and not a lot of platforms, so we're going to try for those where we can, but it's going to be a little scary. Our next level is going to showcase a variant of the Koopa Clown Car, which is the Fire Koopa Clown Car. Or the Guy Fieri car is the alternate name for it, because why not? Just go for it. With this one, it can actually shoot fireballs. Fireballs would be a whole different mechanic and would be very terrifying. First thing I need to do though is get inside of it. So what I'm doing now is I'm charging up a fireball, and then I'm ducking out of it and using the ceiling to spin down without having to do the full exit animation. But here's where we can really see it. So by default, if I use the fire button, it'll shoot one fireball. If I hold down the fire button, you can see it charge up. Its eyes will get angry, it'll change colors, and now I get a larger fireball. Not only is this larger, it will actually go through enemies. So while my smaller fireball will stop, this larger one will actually go through everything, which is very convenient for clearing enemies out of this level. This is a longer level, it's an auto-scroller, but it's kind of like almost an old space shooter game, where the medal challenge for this level is actually to get a high score. I'm not really going for that in this run because it involves playing things a lot more dangerously than I really want to, but I'll show a little bit of at the end so you can get a taste for what this level looks like sort of at full power. So far, I've only been shooting 1 fireball at a time, but you know what's cooler than that? What if we shot 3 at a time? If you have a fire flower as Mario, by default you now shoot 3 fireballs, and when you charge up, all 3 of them become charged. This works out really well for doing a lot of damage, and that's going to be crucial at the end of this level because at the end of this level, we have our next Bowser fight. This is a mandatory Bowser fight. He has a key, so we cannot get past him without taking him down, but we are going to be fighting Bowser from the Koopa Clown Car. Now, ideally, I keep my Fire Flower because if I have the Fire Flower in the Bowser fight, I can do 3 times as much damage because I get 3 fireballs to 1. If I lose my Fire Flower during that Bowser fight, it gets really scary really quickly because not only am I doing less damage, but it's going to take me longer to finish the fight. And another thing with that Bowser fight to watch out for is on the side of the screen, you're going to see some boos that are going to be closing in the entire time. But here we go. I promised I'd show you this level without me clearing everything out. This would be how you get a high score, but oh my goodness, is this too many things. There's a reason for speedrun safety. I usually murder everything before it even gets close, so I don't have to deal with all of that happening at once. But there you go, as a treat for today, showing it off. So here's our Bowser fight that we've been building up to. You can see the boo off to the left and right of the screen trying to get closer. I'm going to try to dodge these fireballs because again, if I lose my Fire Flower with this, I suddenly go at a way slower speed. That was a really good fight actually. And my goal is to hit him with 3 fireballs as much as possible. So very risk reward, very fun when it works, but very scary when it doesn't, especially coming at the end of such a long level. Thankfully, that's the longest of the Koopa Clown Car levels, but the last 2 are actually scarier. So Lizzie, would you like to take over for these ones?
I will, yes.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that I did not know that you got the Fire Clown Car in that level, so when I named this one When Koopa Clown Cars Attack Back, I thought it was the first time that happened.
Well, this is still good because this is the first time they actually attack back. That one they don't attack us. This one they do.
Okay, well that's just perfect then. So we get our clown car, and Char is going to skillfully navigate her way through all of these enemies, cutting as many corners as she can. She's gonna try and blow up these blocks in one hit, which she does. That is really temperamental down there because of the way clown cars move and bounce off of things, which will show up in our next level and become a really important thing. Just the way clown cars bounce is really tough to manage. She's going to go ahead and shoot through the wall off screen here. You can see the bouncing there, and then she's going to pop up, grab her next clown car, and hop down and maybe shoot this. Yep, she's going to shoot that wall right there just so she can cut a corner and hop under the level. And because clown cars are slow, she's jumping out of it as quick as she possibly can. And that takes us on to level 12-4, the Fast and the Furious Koopa Drift. In this level, she has to navigate through a maze of spiky blocks at high speed in a clown car with death at every turn and every corner, because if she bounces into one, the chances are extremely high that it will send her careening to her death. So right here at the beginning, it's actually really easy. She just has to go straight, and then she has to go up, and then she has to go down, just avoiding these fire bars, no big deal, right? But then we get to this spot where she avoids some saws, and then we get into this drift course where we're just in this clown car, which is just absolutely terrifying. So you're gonna see she's trying to take this as fast as reasonable while avoiding everything. It's important to note she jumps right there, because if she doesn't, then Bowser Jr. is at the bottom of the level and she can't actually get past him in her small Mario form. So it was really important to take that jump to influence Bowser Jr. to go up so she could just run under the attack and exit the level safely.
Exactly. A little bit of manipulation on the boss there, and gosh, I'm so glad we got through that one without having to do it again, because that's one of those levels where if you're speedrunning, it's so easy to get stuck in one of those loops where you die and then you die again and then you die again, and it can be really frustrating. But speaking of death loops, World 13 coming up is another spot where that is entirely possible. This world has some cursed levels living up to the number 13. Lizzie, do you want to take this first one?
Yes, 13-1. How many chain chomps are too many? In this essay will, ... Because in this level, there are just so many chain chomps. The first thing she's going to do is she's going to pop up here and get this propeller hat, so she can navigate herself through the level. There is a way to get up there without it right here, but it's really tough to do. It's not super convenient. So much for the easy part of this level, though, because now we get to this just all of these chain jumps. You know, I think when there was that sale on Hammer Bros that Villains Are Us, maybe Bowser also bought some chain jumps, because my goodness, there are just so many here. And they're like jump scary chain jumps. You're gonna see that they just literally pop out of the lava like that last one there. It's just so many chain jumps. But Charbunny has navigated it masterfully.
Yeah, there were some sketchy moments in there. It may not look like it because for the most part the chain jumps didn't get too close. But there are a couple chain jumps where if you slow down and you were in the wrong spot, they are bloodthirsty. They will go straight for you and you have no chance to escape. So the route through that is a lot tighter than it looks because the chain jumps want to catch up with you. Here though, we're going to do something very unique. We're going to start over 5 times. And this is the only time you're going to see this. Now the level, as designed, is actually an escort mission. Yeah, they put an escort mission in a platforming game, thanks Nintendo. And that's so not fun and it's so incredibly slow. So instead, we're going to take advantage of Nintendo's being nice to us and thinking that maybe we're not so good at this game. If we die 5 times in one level, it's going to say, would you like an assist item? This is an item that it will give us that it's intended to help make progress and help us get through a little bit further. These are not something you can use for an individual level, but in the full game run, they are allowed, and this is the only time it's actually going to save us time, because as you can see, dying 5 times is not super fast. But I believe that was number 5, so here we should get Yamamura, who's our pigeon friend, talking to us and going, hey, looks like you could use some help, doing his best Clippy impression and saying like, would you like an item? In this case, the item's a star, and that's going to be super important for us. So there's sort of 2 sections to this level. The first one, you escort a muncher, or a P-switch to activate that muncher and get through that barrier. Second one would have escorted the muncher itself and used it to get rid of these Bowsers, but the star lasts just long enough to get through both of those obstacles without dying. It is frames to get to that final Bowser, and it's not hard to get there, but it's incredibly tight, so it's really cool that that strategy works at all, and I'm so excited that it exists in the game. Our next one is going to be our pirate-themed level. So this level, maybe not so much cursed for difficulty, but just cursed in general. This is a really cool aesthetic level where you can see we've got all these pirate ships, you've got the rigging, the sails, you have your skeleton crew with all the dry bones jumping in and having their role to play. But again, with any aesthetic level in this game, they tend to be pretty, oh, let's get a jump here. They tend to be pretty fast for the speed run because we're gonna be able to run through all those aesthetics without really taking the time to slow down and appreciate them. So cool level, but we move on pretty quickly. Our next one is possibly the most cursed level in the game for 100%, but thankfully we ignore the heck out of that for any percent. And that's because of the medal challenges. So we've talked about the 100%, the medal challenges a few times before. Take a look at the medal challenges for this level. So keep in mind this is a Mario game, and our challenges are reach the goal without pressing the jump button. Seriously, Nintendo decided, you know, for funsies, what if you just didn't get to jump? So here's what this level looks like when you try not to jump, and I'm gonna do this for about 2 seconds, and then I'm gonna go, yeah, screw this, we're jumping again. So this would be really difficult for 100%, for any percent, since we're just gonna jump over things and not use the note blocks to destroy enemies, we're just gonna freestyle it. It's a great time for anything else Roadkill that you'd like to jump in and chime in with.
Absolutely, and I've got some great news.
Oh?
We have officially met the incentive to see the bonus levels at the end of the run!
Yes.
Yay!
I'm so excited! Thank you, everyone!
Me too. Thank you so much, everyone who donated towards that. And towards that, we got a $50 donation from Sanjan, who says, "Bye, Yoshi." And it's probably no mystery which where the poll is now sitting. Save Yoshi is currently sitting at $65, and Kill Yoshi is at $120.
Yes.
And there's a lot of Yoshi haters in the chat, apparently, but it is not too late. We can still save Yoshi if we really put our heads and our hearts together. I believe in us.
I have faith that I can convince chat. There's a few more opportunities for me too.
Yeah, and I would also like to remind everybody that we do have some merch this year for the Lady Arcader Super Showcase. If you type !merch in the chat, you'll get a link to see that shop, and $5 from every Super Showcase t-shirt will be donated towards care. So you can support the charity and receive a sweet shirt.
That sounds like a great
So if you're
deal.
ambivalent about Yoshi, that's another option.
Thank you, Sanja, and thank you everyone for keeping Yoshi in the right spot on this poll. I'm so excited about that. Let's keep that moving. Lizzie, I think I'm winning. I think I'm gonna win this. Just saying.
You don't know what I have in store. I have some good arguments waiting.
Wow. Okay, well, we'll get to those soon. Right now we're getting through another propeller level. This one less of a tutorial, more of an exam. But again, pretty fast to get through once you know the route. So the main thing is trying not to float down too much, so landing really carefully as close to the platforms as we can. And then here we want to triple jump around those Koopas, but land low enough on the flagpole to not get the top of the flag. It's pretty easy to get past the Koopas if you're aiming for the top of the flagpole, but again, we want the bottom, so a little bit more stacking. Next is the closest I've ever seen Mario come to becoming Super Meat Boy. This is a very scary level with a lot of very scary saws. Ideally, we can get through it without dying, but it's another one of those levels where, you know what, that might happen. So first things first, we're going to go through this door. You can kind of see what's to come with what's going to be ahead of us. So we need to stay ahead of those saws this entire time. Thankfully, we're speedrunning, so that's not really the issue. Here, we're going to jump on the cannon and wall jump, and that's going to line us up to get through all 3 of those fire jets without slowing down. Notice that the cannonballs are still coming through. Dang it, I jumped slightly too late for that fireball. Told you this level was deadly. The cannons are still following us through, so we do have to watch for them in that area where we're going down. But again, if we line this up correctly, we shouldn't run into too many problems with that. The fireballs at the bottom are just there, and that's a whole thing. So again, we're looking to jump on this particular cannonball as our cue to time that fire jet so we can go through without slowing down. It's kind of meant to be almost Star Wars Phantom of the Menace sort of style, where you have to wait for them to go on and off, but if we time that correctly, we don't have to do so. Then, while jumping, using the timing of that fire jet to skip the saw, and now we get into a lot more saws. So I'm going to intentionally take damage here because we don't want to have to do this without with our mushroom. I need to jump over 3 saws with 1 gap in between them. That is a 1 block gap to get through. And if that wasn't enough, we've got Bowser. He can run or he can jump. Thankfully, he ran first, and that's the fastest thing. If he jumps, we have to be ready to react to that, or we'll die at the end of that level too. Random RNG Bowsers at the end of castle levels is kind of a thing in this game, so it's something we've got to watch out for, not only here, but in many levels coming up. Whew, that said, we're out of the cursed world, we're out of World 13, so we get to go back into maybe a little bit friendlier levels here. Our next one, 14-1, is going to be pretty chill. This is going to be an auto-scroller, but something different about this one is that we're going to get a mushroom not for safety. So a lot of times in levels, you saw this maybe more obviously than I intended with that Dry Bones level where I took the mushroom the second time. A lot of times in auto-scrollers, we can get a safety mushroom, and that's again a mushroom that we get that isn't going to give us any speed advantage, is in fact going to slow us down a little bit because it's that half second to power up, but it keeps us from dying once, and so it's just there for safety. This is a level where it will kind of look like I'm getting a safety mushroom, but it's actually not for safety, it's actually for a shortcut. First thing I do here though is line up on this corner, just because I can. The boomerang's gonna fall down and just zoop right through us. So much fun. Here is gonna be our mushroom, so I need to make sure I'm watching out for this gap in the boomerang so I can come up and hit it and grab my mushroom. Again, this is not for safety, this is for a shortcut, so I really want to keep it with me. These are winged enemies. So one of the things in Mario Maker, if you haven't seen this before, is that you can add wings to a lot of enemies and it does different behavior for them. So in this case, you can see they're moving a little bit faster. They sort of are going in and out compared to the regular boos. That was really close to losing the mushroom, that's fine. But the entire reason we need this is because large Mario can ground pound. See that? Small Mario can't. He doesn't have enough oomph for that one. And specifically, instead of going through a whole maze at the end of this level, we can actually just ground pound through these blocks here and hit the flagpole by a shortcut. So that's one of those times where the mushroom initially looks like it's just for safety, but nope, it's actually to give us a shortcut and help us get to the end just a little bit faster than we would otherwise. Our next one is going to be pretty scary. This one's tricky because there's a lot of death coming from above and below, and so one thing to watch out for with this level is the jumps are tighter than they look. A lot of times when we're looking at jumps in Mario, we're mostly looking at the ground, we're looking beneath our feet. But the thing here is these Buzzy Beetles will fall from the ceiling as well, as you can see. And what that means is that they're actually sort of closing that gap for us. So you can see there, I have a much smaller distance to jump between than I otherwise might seem, because if I jump too high on any of those jumps, I'm hitting the Buzzy Beetles. I went super slow, so we're going to be patient and wait for this one up here. You can kind of get around it, but not if you bonk at all leading up to it. This last one is going to come down from the ceiling, and just be a jerk. If you jump directly for that ending goal, you will get hit by it, but as long as you take a little bit of extra time to go around, you will be safe. 14-3, I'm probably gonna get the safety checkpoint just because we've had a couple deaths up to this point. Chat, I hope you're keeping track of the deaths again because I've already lost count, so that's your job. I hope you're helping me out. But this is a really cool level, and it kind of reminds me of an action movie. The first part, maybe not so much, but it's really well constructed to teach you about a specific item, which is the Crusher. So the Crushers are these giant things that are going down and understandably trying to crush us. Underwater, they move really slowly and lethargically, and this is a cool setup by Nintendo to teach you how these work in a more digestible fashion before the second half of the level comes through and we're going to see things get a little bit more wild. But because they're slow in the first half, it does make sense for us to damage boost a few times and then just have to wait for them at the end. I'm going to try to fast swim here at the end. That's when you hit the swim button twice because there's actually 2 of them on the controller. It's hard to control, it's fine. And it does save a little bit of time. But here's where we get to the action part. Now that the Crushers are out of the water, they're moving twice as fast, and they're exploding things behind them. So you can sort of see and hear the explosions happening behind us as we try to race through this level. So this is where it really starts to feel like AAA action movie, explosions in the background, all the people running past it. Like, it's such a fun level to go from slow-paced, very methodical, very precise swimming into run for the hills and hope nothing hits you. So a good mix. Unfortunately, we go from that adrenaline to 14.4, which is the longest level in the game. This is an auto-scroller where things are set up in such a way that we're going to get these really interesting fireball or potaboo patterns, or lava bubble I think is the name in this game for them, where you'll see that they form like these little V shapes. They're going to form different shapes as we go through, and the auto-scroller was chosen so that these formations for them would be very consistent. However, because of all the different formations they tried to show us, it just gets really long. We do get a mushroom here, and this is not actually for safety, it kind of is, but we're going to get a forced checkpoint halfway through this level, so getting the mushroom now is free because we would have lost half a second picking up the checkpoint anyway, and there's no easy way to avoid that. But with that, I hope you sit back and relax and enjoy the fire patterns, and Roadkill, this is another great time for anything you'd like to tell us about.
There is so much. You know, I love talking.
It's a good thing for a host to have. I'm glad you're here.
So I hope everybody in chat is having fun enjoying this really fun run with all kinds of different things to show off. And if you enjoy showcases like this and speedruns like this, I'd like to tell you about some of the other things that Lady Arcaders do. Lady Arcaders run small events throughout the year as part of a series called Attract Mode. So if you're interested to see more speedruns and showcases by our community, tune in every Thursday night at 9 p.m. and Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern to catch some of the awesome ladies in the community showing off awesome games that they love and that they love to speedrun. I'd also like to let everybody know that a new target incentive has opened up, and that is for Dunking the Robot in Haiku the Robot, where Quacksilver is going to be doing a nice swag move where they're going to be throwing the robot through a hoop. It's really fun and entertaining and an amazing meme, and I would love to see it. So if you're wanting to get donations in towards that, go ahead and make sure you mark that as your target incentive.
Would definitely recommend that. I've seen Quacksilver do Haiku before. Fantastic runner, fantastic game. So would encourage sticking around for that run and donating for that incentive because it is fun to just, you know, score a little 3-pointer as you're running through the game.
Yes, and I'd also like to remind everybody that there's a couple more worlds left to go in this run, but make sure that if you want to tilt the scales towards Yoshi, which you should, because we have to save our lovely friend from the brutality of Charbunny chucking him into a pit.
Wow.
Make sure you get those donations in towards that poll by the time we get to World 18.5.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting so called out today, but thankfully not by the donations yet. Like, donations are still in my favor. I got that going for me. One thing to note in this level is that there are a bunch of invisible blocks flying around. I specifically don't hit them because doing so changes the pattern of the fireballs that I get, and I don't want to mess with this level at all. I just want to get through it. It's just done. That said, thank you again so much for unlocking those bonus levels for this game. Looking forward to Haiku the Robot. And feel free to put Yoshi even more in the lead. Like, you know, Kill Yoshi could use more of a lead. I know it's been changing back and forth a few times, so if you want to just extend that and really guarantee that Yoshi gets to lounge in the bottom of the pit in World 18, then make sure to get those donations in. I think that works out well.
No, it does not work out well at all. And this is where I think, chat, that I'm going to win you over on a moral grounds. Because I have named 15-1 Charbunny's villain arc. You're going to see in this level that she uses Yoshi the whole time. Like, she needs Yoshi to get through it. She gets a Yoshi right here at the beginning, but then she refuses to let Yoshi do Yoshi's full flutter, which is just really mean because Yoshi's flutter is just Yoshi being excited and trying to help Mario out. And she just doesn't do it because it's faster, oh no. But she goes ahead and grabs the fireball there with Yoshi because she needs it to get past that big piranha plant. See, there's a recurring theme here of her Charbunny needing Yoshi. And she goes ahead and grabs another enemy with it so that she can destroy all of these piranha flowers just really super quickly. And then she's going to go ahead and use the Yoshi's flutter again, and then she's just going to ditch Yoshi like Yoshi didn't do any of that. So obviously Yoshi is super necessary and we need to save Yoshi later, which is why that level is Charbunny's villain arc.
Wow. Okay then. I don't know. I think that Yoshi can actually murder you at the end of that level. He can re-grab you and just pull you down to the depths of hell. He is not friendly in that one, despite what Lizzie may try to convince you of otherwise. Oh gosh, this one thankfully has no Yoshi in it, so we don't have to worry about that green menace showing up and running around. Instead, this is the airship from the original, or sorry, from Super Mario Bros. 3. You'll notice we're picking up a leaf power-up for this one. That is going to be helping us in our final fight. So before we've had required fights, we've had optional fights. Generally, if it's required, there's a key that we have to get from our boss. In this level, it's required with the biggest question mark I can put in my voice. And that's because the game kind of intends for you to defeat Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. is going to be in a Koopa Clown car, which we saw a lot of earlier, and the exit to his little arena is going to be in the top right of that room. It's actually a pipe that's all the way at the top of the screen, too far for us to jump on our own. So what we're kind of supposed to do is take out Bowser Jr. and then steal his ride, although there's a question of whether or not he's old enough to drive anything anyway. Steal his ride and then use it to get to the top right corner pipe. However, we're speedrunners, and it turns out there's about 4 other ways to do that that don't involve killing Bowser Jr., although that is something that could happen, because all the other ones are much less consistent. You can use this power-up to fly up to the top right corner, which is fast but not cool. And so what we're going to do instead is we're going to try to get one of the shells that he throws out of his car and use it to shell jump off of the wall on the right. We'll see how well this goes. He's going to be chasing us down, trying to murder us in the meantime, so we get off of him and grab a shell. Oh, this is going to make things a lot trickier. Let me get around this. You know, we're gonna go ahead and get that fire flower, because now I'm scared. This is a long level to do over. We're gonna try to bait him this way, and then I'm gonna try it again. Really, at this point, it makes more sense to actually just defeat him, but there we go. That's what it looks like when you get a shell jump and can skip to the side. Unfortunately, he just did not move into a good spot for me to get that first try, but that's one of the ways to defeat that room without actually defeating the boss. And that is one of those Kaizo tricks that you can pull out in the middle of this run. You know, flex a little bit, but also get some fast strats going. This next one's really cute, kind of adorable. Lizzie, do you want to talk about our visit to Mario's neighborhood?
Yeah, I have named this level Mario Terrorizes the Neighborhood. You can see right here at the very beginning that we have Mario's house with the red top and Luigi's house much taller and with the green top. So it's their neighborhood, and she's running through here. She's doing all this stuff, doing specific jumps to land on that car. She wants to land on that car and bounce off of it, doing untold amounts of property damage so that she can get through the neighborhood just as quickly as she possibly can.
You were not kidding about this being my villain arc, huh?
Yeah, exactly. The next level, I have named Mario's Great Escape. You'll notice that this level, Charbunny has brought up this mechanic earlier in the run. It is what she calls a platform auto-scroller. So we have this platform that runs through the level, and you sort of need the platform to move through the level. But it's not, but this time, it's not really an auto-scroller. You can see that the camera isn't actually moving until Charbunny moves. So she uses that to manipulate the camera of when sprites load in and out, and that it's not really important later on why that happens, but that's something to take note that that is something that happens. This is why I'm commentating this run, so that she can focus, because what happens there is she is waiting for the platform to get to a specific location, and then she can make this jump, where she's going to damage boost through that fireball, and then hopefully jump off the spike. But because you're in a damage boost situation with the blinking Marios, the jump is extremely tight and really tricky. Char, was that some bad RNG?
That was actually,
that
I scrolled the screen too soon. So you mentioned that I'm controlling the screen scroll. I jumped onto the bottom platform too soon and messed with when that fireball spawned in, so I hit the one that was too early. So that's still my fault, unfortunately. I will give this one more try and then I will just do the level normally. This is one of those tricks that I knew I may or may not hit going in, so we're gonna give it our best try, but it's one of those. So here we go again.
But that's okay. It's not the end of the world if she doesn't get it, but it looks like she did. Third
There we
time's the
go.
charm.
Okay.
She's gonna go ahead and hit that checkpoint because no one wants to have to do that again. Now we're gonna hop onto this next platform. This is another situation where she manipulates the camera because there's gonna be one of those smasher things, and it can destroy part of the platform, and for the speedrun it doesn't really matter. But you know, if you're playing this casually, if you keep the camera off to the left as much as you can there, it prevents that crusher from destroying part of this platform and making her life a lot easier. I named this Mario's Great Escape because she does these death-defying jumps at the very end to save all of this time in these 3 sections. That one is just a huge time save, and what looks death-defying is actually fairly safe. If you jump at the right time, then it's basically a free jump every single time. This 3rd section is nice and really easy. You just get to cruise along on the platform. She stands on specific ones, so as soon as that block hits the ground, she runs and jumps and makes that jump every single time, and she's over Bowser and she's out.
Yeah, and the change hump escape one is straightforward and safe as long as you get that first jump, but that first jump is not easy. So I'm glad I at least nailed one of those 2 tricks first try, but this was the level I was most nervous about because it has 2 really hard tricks back to back to try to land and a ton of time that you can miss if you don't get them. So we got there, World 15 is down, and that moves us into World 16, which is great because it's one of the faster worlds in the game. It actually doesn't have any auto-scrollers, so we're going to be moving through the whole thing. Lizzie, do you want to talk about donut blocks in 6-1?
I do. Before I do that real quick though, I just want to comment on how fun it's been to hear the background music evolve over the course of this game as you get to the new worlds. It seems to have like gotten new pieces in the background. That's been really fun to listen to. So here we are in level 16-1. As Charbunny mentioned, there's lots of donut blocks to jump on, which is why I named this level Mario and Luigi Go to Dunkin' Donuts. You have these donut block platforms, whatever they are, and the goal here for Char is to jump on the right hand side of their eyes. So what is that, maybe like a 12:30 or 1 o'clock position. That will allow her to get as much momentum off of them as they can. They act like bumpers in Celeste, where you sort of bounce off in the direction that you land on it on. So it's really important to land in that one specific location to get as much momentum as you can. She's going to jump over all of these here and then bounce it hopefully in the right spot, looks like she did, so that she can single cycle that jump right there. And then this is another pseudo platform scroller chunk right here. She's going to try and jump right where she needs to and make that jump, saving her a cycle of having to wait for those donuts to roll all the way over to the far end to get to the end.
That was a very close jump at the end. That was by like 1 toe of Mario landing on that ledge. And unfortunately to take a death in that one as well. Chat, again, hope you're counting. Because the donut blocks are pretty erratic with what direction they send you, because it is a small change in momentum like every single time you hit them. This level is where we're going to realize that lives don't matter, everything is made up. And that's because, watch this. So we start, and as long as you're carrying the same star, you get the same combo. And we're not at 100 lives. We did not start with 100 lives, but here we are. We're also going to pick up this shoe. And that does save time because you hit the goal slightly sooner if you're wearing a shoe compared to if you're not. Like, by maybe a pixel or 2. But it's slightly faster to pick up the shoe in that level. That is a speed strat. I didn't know about that until a couple weeks ago. We were going through aisles for a runner named Pango5. Shoutouts to him for getting all the aisle records in one go. And that's just something where I still can't do that without laughing, because it's so ridiculous that picking up a high-heeled shoe in that level is in fact a speed strat that saves you time. With this one though, it's pretty straightforward. You can really run through this in any sort of way. What I like to do is I like to have a pattern for it, so I'm going to be spin jumping at the end of all of the first set of platforms, and then I'll be spin jumping in the middle of all the second set of platforms. Just kind of nice that it works out that way, and we're already done with this one. Going from this very simple and straightforward level though into one of the most complex of the game is 16-4. So Lizzie, do you want to pick us back up with this one?
I do, yes. I've named this level where Char tries to convince herself that she doesn't need Yoshi, because This level is incredibly hard, and it's pretty trivialized by Yoshi. But because we're in a speed run, and as she claims, Yoshi isn't terribly fast, she's going to avoid using Yoshi at all costs. So she's going to try and convince herself that she doesn't need Yoshi. But thankfully, Nintendo has, in many locations, put a backup Yoshi there just in case you have decided to leave Yoshi behind, because they believe that you will probably need him. To move through those conveyor belts, she does a ground pound, which helps her move pretty quickly. That it prevents those conveyor belts from throwing her off to the sides. So that allows her to move through here. She's going to go ahead and get this shellmet, which is really where the name of this comes from, is she's going to move into this next section, which is incredibly challenging. She's going to get this POW block, and then she's going to throw it and land on it, and then from there she's going to make it over this huge gap. Then because she still has her shellmet, she's going to be able to maneuver through this top area right here without hitting all those spikes, because it saves her. That will get her through this section extremely quickly, which is really great. If you lose your shellmet in that process, the game gives you Yoshi, which is really nice. Here, she's going to go ahead and blow up this block that's holding this launcher in place so that she can move over, and hopefully RNG is going to play nicely. Unfortunately, it didn't, so we lost the shellmet there, but that's okay. All that means now is that we have to go fight Bowser. So she's going to go ahead and get a shellmet, and she's going to get a fire flower so that she can go ahead and attack. Thankfully, she had her shellmet, so if you had an eagle eye, then you could see that a fireball fell down on the shellmet, destroying that fireball. So she didn't have to deal with that while fighting Bowser. So she was able to go ahead and make quick work of Bowser. And we're at a 16-4.
Yeah, that one is really tricky. So the way that we skipped Yoshi in the middle with that POW is actually another Kaiser trick called a POW drop, where we drop the POW and then land on it again in midair. So that's a scary part. And then at the end, you have a 60% chance that Bowser does the right thing, and you can slide under him with the shellmet and just barely squeak past him without having to fight him. We got one of the bad patterns, and so unfortunately that blocks us from going underneath him, so we went around and fought him instead. But it's safer to still at least go for the first one, because you do clear out one of the obstacles that would have been in your way. With 17-1, we're going to jump into a level that has 2 routes for every single section. One route, which is the one we're going to take, and the other route, which should be hitting all of these little blocks. So the way that we're doing is kind of actually the big brain skips between each of these. And if you go along the bottom, you actually activate all of these different little blocks. And here is kind of what that looks like. The actual route for that section is to activate a fire to blow up the bomb, but if we just sort of run through and duck and once again give Mario a concussion, we can sneak in there and get the spring. I'm going to stop moving there. You can accidentally like spin jump off of that wall if you keep trying to twirl in midair for too long, so I usually take that ending a little bit safely. Whew, okay. That one is always a little nerve-wracking just because at the end there's a giant pit, and anytime there's a giant pit, there's a giant possibility of death. But we got through that one okay, bringing us into 17-2. So I mentioned earlier we were going to be able to get our revenge on Dry Bones. Here's the level where that happens. So this level is entirely constructed around teaching you how to murder giant Dry Bones. Giant Dry Bones, if you stand on top of them, are just going to come back like a normal Dry Bones, but by bouncing into them from below or doing a number of other things, we can actually take them out of commission entirely. You'll notice that we want a key and we want to go back through this pipe to finish the level. Here's our key. The pipe is actually blocked off by invisible blocks. We'll have to come back to it once we can get rid of those. Here's the next way that we can murder one of these giant Dry Bones, and that's with the POW. Just go ahead and hit the POW and it's out of your way. Our next one that we're going to do, again, we have hidden blocks we can't leave yet. We need a bomb in order to blow those up, so we're going to go down into this room now that we have a mushroom. Activate this mushroom for safety, and we're now going to use a bomb to get rid of the Dry Bones as well. So by throwing it through the Dry Bones, we can get it, we can pick our bomb back up, and now here's where I need to count to 6. 2, 3, 4, 6. And I messed it up because I got nervous and I wasn't paying attention again. So this is why we get a safety mushroom, so I can go back and try this one more time. We need to time throwing this bomb up until those blocks so that we can destroy them. So here we go one more time. There we go. You have to throw it on the down flash of the 6th flash, which I know is weird, but that's the timing for it. We get the safety mushroom because this level does take a while to redo, and it is, like I said, weirdly difficult to count to 6 when you're on nerves. But we got through it, made it through there. We got to get our revenge on the Dry Bones. They got a little bit of revenge on us with that bomb on, but that's okay. 17.3 is going to be even more bomb-bombs and even more timing and explosions. In this case, though, it's going to be more about where the bomb-bombs are and where we are on screen than anything else. So something we haven't talked too much about is pipes. Pipes spawn in items if they have an item inside of them, and depending on how the pipe appears, it may be random or it may be timed based on when the pipe is loaded on screen. So the first thing I need to do, though, is clear a pipe. If that pipe has blocks, it will not activate. Then you'll notice I'm staying on the very left. I'm trying to keep that pipe on screen so that it will spawn that cloud. If I were to have gone too far to the right, it would not have spawned the cloud, and when I get back, I'd have to wait for it to appear. When you run into screen for a pipe, it will always spawn things consistently. It's if it's on screen when you start that it becomes random. Here, this section's super fun. We're gonna try to just sort of duck jump through this, spin off of that thing, spin through these things, just get through there without slowing down. This next section is very scary to go through casually because the slower you go, the more time these bomb-bombs have to explode things, and you'll notice that when they take away your blocks, there's just spikes left. That section gets incredibly dangerous if you let those bombs get out of control. Thankfully with speedrunning, we go fast, we don't give them enough time to try to cause a problem or let them ruin our day. For 17.4, we are going to have our next platform scroller, and this one, very key that we can control when items spawn on screen. So I'll show that a little bit and then we'll move on to donations, but for this one, I have to run through the beginning because this beginning just exists. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to land on the platform here, and then I'm going to not move and watch where the Goomba spawns in. So here we go, here's my spot. I'm just going to chill here. You'll notice that all the fire misses me, and a Goomba is going to spawn in from the pipe on the top right of the screen. But because of where I'm standing, it's only going to land on this platform once, and a second time it's going to fall off of that chain chomp on the left. Chain chomp, by the way, is Bob, which is Bob but backwards, so the capital B is at the end. But at this point, I am just kind of chilling on this platform with Bob, so if Roadkill, if you'd like to speak up about anything, now's another good time.
Absolutely would. For those of you just now tuning in to this showcase, you are watching the Lady Arcaders Super Showcase, which is an all-women charity talent showcase event running from July 6th, that is Thursday, until the 9th, which is this Sunday, benefiting CARE. This Super Showcase features a bunch of talented women showing off games that they love, so make sure to tune in during the event and tell all your friends. And if you're curious about some of the other amazing runs that we have planned over this weekend, go ahead and type !schedule in the chat, and if you're like me, you're going to plan your entire weekend around what runs that you want to watch, so there's some really great stuff on this schedule that I'm sure are going to be amazing to check out. In addition, we do have an incentive going to Dunk the Robot and Haiku the Robot. We need $75 more towards that incentive to see that really cute interaction, so let's go ahead and get those donations in before that run.
Yes, please keep those donations coming. Make sure you assign them to that goal. Make sure you're also bidding on Yoshi and his fate. I believe
Yoshi's fate is not sealed.
I believe Kill Yoshi is still in the lead, though, right? We're still doing good there?
It is. It is quite a ways in the lead, but it is still possible to save Yoshi, I believe. I believe that chat can save Yoshi.
No, don't save Yoshi. You got it right the first time, chat. You got this. This level, pretty straightforward. This is one of those levels where you can really see the power of conveyors. The big thing I'm trying to do is anytime the conveyors are going backwards, I just kind of casually got 3 frame perfect jumps in that level and did it pretty optimally. So the key thing is if the conveyors...
Let's go.
I know, that almost never happens. If the conveyors are going backwards, they will slow you down, but only if you're on the ground for more than 1 frame. Same thing goes for boost. So if the platform's going the way you want it to, you want to stay on it for as long as possible. But if they're going against you, you can avoid slowing down if you jump on the exact frame that you land. I managed to do that 3 times that level, so that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, let's get some hype in chat for those 3 frame perfect jumps. Like, that was amazing.
With this level, this is Booberry. Hi, Booberry. The key thing is we never want to face Booberry until we're ready to jump on top of her, because otherwise she'll slow down. This section is just awkward sometimes, so I'm just going to be a little bit slow and hope I don't die at the end. There we go, that was fine. Basically, you want to damage boost and fall through that section, using that boot to damage boost since it is sort of, again, a free damage compared to some of the other power-ups that would visually slow you down and freeze you in place for half a second. From there, though, running to the end, there's going to be a boomerang at the end that's in absolutely a brutal spot, but as long as we just sort of bump Mario's nose on that flagpole, we'll always be able to get around it and it'll always start moving away. With that, though, that brings us to 17.8, which is a lot of chaos, and admittedly, there's a little bit of Yoshi, so I guess, Lizzie, if you want to talk about Yoshi or this level, like, you can do that. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, chat. If I haven't won you over on all the great ways that Yoshi is really awesome, and I haven't won you over on moral grounds with Char just leaving him behind multiple times, this is the level where Char Bunny admits that I'm right. She grabs this fireball on Yoshi, and then she lands directly on this launcher and fires these fireballs, and then races them on Yoshi to get to start those exploding bombs over there on the right. And then she waits here for Yoshi to come back so she can use him to jump over or jump on these dry bones. And then if I remember correctly, she uses Yoshi to remove a bunch of this RNG and take an extra hit. So when we were practicing this level, she straight up said, "We are off to the races on Yoshi." So this is the one where she admits that I'm right. So if nothing else has won you over, this is the one that should, where she admits that Yoshi is needed. Okay. And that we should save Yoshi.
Hold on, slight clarification. Yoshi's not needed. You can finish that level without Yoshi. Should you ever attempt that
run?
Be fast. No, it would be fast if you didn't die 100 times. There is a 1 in 8 chance those Hammer Bros line up the way that you expect, and a 2 in 3 chance that Bowser doesn't jump at the end. So it is possible to complete the individual level without getting Yoshi at the end, but admittedly, for the speedrun, it's a bad idea to leave Yoshi behind in that specific instance, so.
Alrighty, and here we are on level 18-1. I named this one Lucy in the Sky with Air Bloopers because we start here at the very beginning and there are all these air bloopers. There's air blooper mania. The whole goal here is just to get through. Now, interestingly, Char Bunny has elected to keep her Fire Flower, which is going to make her life just a little bit harder because these thwomps get in the way and are extremely dangerous after they destroy those blocks. Here she's going to try and do a couple really tough jumps, which is going to look really great, where she kills the Cuckoo Clown car, she blasts through this wall, and then she goes ahead and destroys one more, and then she's going to hop into another one, because as we said, when these first came out, or when these were first shown, moving in the clown cars is pretty slow compared to like moving in the air, so she's going to spend as little time in them as possible. Thankfully, she navigated that level like a pro. That was absolutely incredible, Char.
Thanks. I'm honestly shocked we got all that first try, because this is a strat I've learned this week. That was one of the last upgrades I made to this route, just to be able to showcase something like this in the marathon, so I'm really glad that worked out. I hope that was exciting for all of you to watch. This level, we're just going to be running past some wigglers, so I just want to check in on the Yoshi bid war again, because we're coming up pretty soon on the level where we're going to have to call it. So, Roadkill, please tell me that we're still killing Yoshi so far?
Well, you will unfortunately be happy to hear that. It looks like chat is wanting us to kill Yoshi, but it's not too late. If you get those very last minute in donations, we can flip that vote.
Come on, chat, I believe in you.
3 levels, chat. You don't have a lot of time left. This next one's kind of long, so you got a little bit of time there, but you know, I'm feeling pretty cozy right now, so I'm in a great mood. I think chat's been doing a great job so far, but I'm a little nervous. There is still time to snipe it, but it's okay. I'm not worried. Okay, 18-3. 18-3 is the level that I talked about where we're going to skip one of the checkpoints and we'll see how this goes. This also has a weird amount of RNG, but it's not from the sources you would expect. This level introduces Magic Koopas, and if you know what those are, you know they're RNG all over the place. But actually, that boot was late. Because that pipe is on screen when we spawn into this section, it is random when that boot comes, or when that boot comes out of the pipe, and that was actually a very late boot. So that's our first instance of unfortunate RNG. Our next one is going to be Bowser Jr. in this upcoming room. He can move to the left or he can move to the right. Feel free to make your guess. Moving to the right is fast, moving to the left is slow. And you just kind of gotta watch that happen. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just kind of there. We got fast Bowser Jr. Let's go. That's fantastic for us. And that's really it for RNG in this level, despite the Magic Koopas, because we're gonna go past the Magic Koopas before they have a chance to cause magic to happen. But you'll notice there's a checkpoint and I didn't get it, and that's something that's nerve-wracking, but it's fine. So here's another section that's supposed to kind of be a platform scroller, but because this boot can go on top of these spikes, we can jump through and get all these red coins without having to slow down, including jumping out and getting the one at the end. That opens this door. This section looks chaotic. It's sort of our first one with the Magic Koopas, but all I did is I held right. That's it. That's all you have to do for that room is hold right. This next room is where it's going to be a little bit scarier. I need to jump through one of the Magic Koopas and get to another one before it goes away because I need a key. So I'm going to wait here, jump around. It looks like I'm going to hit it. Oh, I hit the second one. Dang it. I didn't jump late enough. And unfortunately, we skipped the checkpoint, so I do have to go back to the beginning. I'll do the other strat now. But ideally, I jump through that Magic Koopa, please get in the pipe, as it's despawning. And that's just enough time to get over there. Seriously, late boot again? Come on, game. All right, place your bets on Bowser Jr. a second time. I will get the checkpoint this time around for safety, so we don't have to worry about that coming through again. But it'll be fine. All right, Bowser Jr. again will be left or right. Left is slow because he goes on these springs and sort of bounces up and around. And we want him to meet us on the right side of the room so we can just sort of bounce on his head and get in the door. So Bowser Jr., would you like to be nice a second time? Nope. Here's a slower pattern. So you can see just how much slower that is with the extra bounces. You got a good comparison of the two different potential Bowser Jr. paths. What we will do this time is we will get this checkpoint, and I'm going to do a different strat to get through that room. Equally as dangerous, honestly, but at least this point we'll have the checkpoint if we need to fall back on it. But as you know, at this point, getting a mushroom is slower than not getting a mushroom, so this is a slightly slower route than the one we were doing before. In either case, our main goal is to get to a Magic Koopa that is at the right side of the screen that is holding a key. We need that to get through a door. I know, shocking at this point in the level, but we want to do that before it disappears. If it disappears, we lose track of which Magic Koopa has the key, and that causes a whole lot of problems for us. So instead here, the alternate route is to damage boost through that Magic Koopa at the top and take out the key Magic Koopa that way. In that case, you jump right at the beginning instead of waiting, but the half second to get the power up, half second to lose it does cost you a second overall, so slight time difference between the two routes, but you get some variety, a little bit of spice here. And that's really it. There's Magic Koopas at the end, but we can skip them. Fun fact, the Magic Koopas can make the flagpole at the end of levels disappear. And thankfully, again, we just go too fast. That all the randomness in that level comes from other elements and not from the Magic Koopas, which are actually known for randomness itself. With this next level, we're going to get a little bit more randomness though, because this is our double Bowser fight. And again, we're also getting really close to that Yoshi cutoff. Only 2 levels to go now before that one happens, so you only have about this level to get your donations in. If you want to really help make sure we kill Yoshi, get those donations in now. If you want to save Yoshi, then don't worry about it. It's fine. I'm sure you could do it later. Anyway, we've got a Bowser fight. So there's actually 2 Bowsers in this level, and we're going to fight them a little bit differently depending on how they behave. So this first one is small, and it's just a pain to actually hit. So what we're going to try to do is classic Mario 3 is just dump him in a pit. You can fire kill him, and it's faster if he cooperates, but he does not cooperate, so we don't do that very often. Our second Bowser, though, is going to be part of this sort of backwards world, and once again, we're going left. So again, this is how you know we're in some really weird, messed up Mario land. I do want to keep this fire flower, so let's not run to the crusher. Here, not only is everything from the previous level, or previous half of the level, a little bit scarier, but our Bowser's twice as big. Now, the convenient thing is that means he's too tall for his own good, and his fire will go above our head if we're right next to him. The other thing to note is that we can only really have 2 fireballs on screen at once, so the closer we are to Bowser, the sooner our fire disappears, and the faster we can take him out. That was actually a really fast fight, you know, so I had much more to say about it than I had time to. And we're out of that Bowser fight. So this is it. This is when we're going to cut off the Yoshi incentive as soon as I start the next level. The Yoshi level is going to be 18.6, but to make sure we have time for any of those last minute processing, if you didn't hit the button now, you're probably not making it. So please go ahead and close the incentive now. I'll ask for the results as we finish this level. But first, to quickly explain, this is another one of those cape levels where you just sort of skip the whole thing. But the reason this is so late in the game, despite being so easy, is because it's mechanically complex to create. You'll notice the bottom, there's a lot going on. There's a shell going back and forth. This is a really complicated level to design, and so that's why it's so late in a game about designing levels, even though it's easy to do. But at this point, Roadkill, I gotta ask you, are we saving or killing the final Yoshi?
Well, it seems that the Yoshi haters have won this time. It is time to kill the Yoshi.
Let's go!
Failed me, chat.
But you helped me. That succeeded me, right? That's not quite the term. Thank you, chat, is what I would like to say. And thank you to everyone who donated either way. Really appreciate it. All towards a fantastic cause. So I'll talk us through this one. This is a level where there isn't a ground. Like, I would say floor is lava, but there just isn't even a floor to be lava. We once again have Yoshi, and one important property of Yoshi is that his feet are kind of invincible, similar to a boot, and so we can use it to jump on these saws. Now, Yoshi, being a jerk, actually treats saws like donuts, which you saw me struggle with earlier. They're not the easiest things to maneuver around. And again, there is nothing below us but the sweet embrace of death. So we have to be very careful. Oh gosh, that was not the pattern I was intending. To jump off of all these correctly, and Yoshi gets a final piece of revenge because that's about where we ditch him, and he decided to ditch us first, which is a bit of a problem.
18-6. Yoshi's Revenge is what I have now named this level.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Alright, so we get to do this again. So, key thing here is that there's a specific set of saws and bombs that I'm trying to jump on that I sort of have memorized as to where they are. But again, with the saws, this is going to be a struggle. With the saws being similar to donut blocks, I don't always... Yoshi is just really trying to make sure anyone who donated to save him feels vindicated right now, because he is being such a jerk. This is fine. The thing is, because they are like donut blocks, they're a little bit inconsistent. Now, technically, they're fully consistent. There's no randomness with them, but because of how different your momentum is based on just the smallest changes in where you land, which is unusual for a Mario game, that makes them a lot more difficult to maneuver and to predict. So there's a lot more of like, well, I hope I landed that in the right spot going on, and a lot more of needing to potentially recover back to certain points if I don't quite land it. But here we go over this, we jump off of this, and bye, Yoshi! There's where you belong, right in that pit. Don't need you for the end. Thank you everyone for donating to ditch the final Yoshi. Much appreciated. Sorry, it took me 3 tries to get there. Alright. We are into the last 2 levels of this game. Again, we do have the bonus levels coming up after this, though, so thank you again for donating. But this is one of the longer levels in the game. This is actually an auto-scroller, but it's a little bit more intricate than you might imagine at first. First thing is we want to grab the shell because we swim faster with the shell. You might notice that we started moving to the right much faster with the shell than without it. When we don't have a shell, we do normal swimming where we sort of fall down unless we're swimming up, and we move left and right at about this pace. But when we pick up a shell or an item, suddenly we start floating. I'm no longer pressing A, I'm no longer jumping, but I just sort of start floating, and instead of sort of keeping myself afloat, I now need to keep myself down to avoid going to the wrong spot. Here we can put the thwomps into timeout. Look at him up there, just throwing a little hissy fit. Can't do anything, he's stuck. It's kind of fun. Shell mitts are fantastic items, one of my favorite in the game. But in addition, again, to helping us stay afloat, they also make us move faster, so we're going to want to have one at the end of this level. Not super important for the auto-scroller part, but very important for the end. And it's good for safety, because you thought we had a whole bunch of air bloopers in 18.1? Well, I guess Nintendo was like, did you know? Bloopers can be underwater too. And they put freaking 12 of them. That is 12 bloopers right there. Crucially, we go up and hit this block, and that's not because we need a 1-up, we're at plenty of lives, but because these bullet bill launchers spawn angry red underwater wigglers. I'm specifically staying here and waiting until after that shell crosses to drop, because that is the only way I prevent this second one from spawning. If you stay to the right of the screen, this bullet bill launcher will launch out an angry red underwater wiggler before you can get there to block it. So it's important to kind of stay in a certain spot to manipulate when that spawns in, and give ourselves a chance to deal with it before it shows up. Now you may be going, Char, what's really so bad about angry red underwater wigglers? And it's that they're heat-seeking missiles. Those things will follow you to the ends of the earth, and your only defense is that they have a terrible turn radius, but they will chase you. And you do get to see them before the level's out, because right here, we're going to get 2 of them. So what I'm doing is I'm staying near the top of the screen very intentionally, so they'll follow me to the top, and then taking their lack of a turning radius against them and looping around to get ahead of them before they come back. I'm now staying right here because this is where the pipe's going to spawn, and I don't want to deal with those things any longer than I have to, and by holding an item at the end, I save just enough time to make that second on the in-game clock. This does bring us to our final level in the game. It is a doozy. It's such a cool final level that really tests your mechanics across all of the different things that we've learned so far. And with the speedrun, that means we've got some interesting tricks to try. So there's a couple things I'll go for. We'll see how they turn out. The first part of this level is, and by the way, time will be when we hit the axe at the end of this level, so time in about 2-3 minutes. So the first thing is, there's actually 3 different routes to go in this level, but only some of them work right now. So you'll notice we can't actually get to the bottom, it's blocked off by blocks. Well, let's go up and get a shell, and then use that to unlock that next area. So it's a bit of puzzling to figure out where to go. In this bottom area, there's 2 items we could pick up, a POW block or a spring. We need a POW first because we'll need a key. So in order to get the POW to spawn, when I go down here, I'm going to make sure I jump over that pipe so I don't block the POW from spawning, and then use the spring to get back out of the room. We're going to now take the POW up to the top left pipe, which is over here, and you're going to see a little POW within this room that was kind of our indicator that this was the item we need. Use it to get rid of the munchers, and go get a key, which is what we'll need to access the next second sort of half of this level. But we're not quite ready yet, because we actually need to go back and get that spring that we didn't grab the first time. This time through the room, I'm going to wall jump off of the left to get a little bit of extra speed, and then run over the pipe so that the POW doesn't spawn, wall jump off the left, or right, wall jump off the left, didn't quite make it, that's fine. Wall jumps like this with items are also not really intended mechanics, so this is kind of cheating, but speed running, we're going to go fast. I am going to go for this trick a few times, but it's very difficult, so we'll just see how it goes. I need to jump off of this Koopa, wall jump, which is again not intended, and spring jump in midair. That is like a bunch of Kaizo things all in a row, and that lets us skip waiting for a long time in that room for a shell to activate a Vine Forest. So I'm so excited I got that because that has been really inconsistent in practice. In this room, we're going to damage boost, and then we're going to wait here for a second. Once again, pipes have a little bit of spawn mechanics, and that lets us actually spawn this fire flower in on screen earlier than if we were to immediately run through that section. Here, Large Mario can ground pound. We'll cancel out of it to avoid sort of getting that stun at the end. And now there's a room that we really don't want to go through, so I'm going to shoot 2 fireballs and then try to do a triple jump right off the corner of that cannon. That was so close. And get into that top pipe. You'll see there's a pipe at the bottom of the screen too. That bottom... Gosh, okay, this is fine. That bottom pipe is one of the slowest rooms in the entire game. It's so incredibly painful. So the fact that we can skip it and still pick up the propeller item that should have been what got us into the top pipe is fantastic. Now we actually have to use the propeller though, and this is a dangerous mess of navigating saws, but thankfully it is retryable. It's still really scary when you're on good pace in the speedrun, because at this point you're off cycle, so everything's in the wrong spot. It's much more difficult to get through this room. And again, if you're on pace in a speedrun, this is your final obstacle before hitting that time button, so definitely not where you want to be making any mistakes. But thankfully for us, we can be a little bit patient. I'm going to wait for this last saw to go by before I crawl across to the end of this. We're getting very close to the end. We have to fight Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr. has a key. Now, we're going to try to take damage in this fight first there, and then oh yeah, it didn't quite work. Because we're going to need to be small Mario to sort of get to the ending without having to slow down. Oh, and that works. Ideally, I do that in the next room, but this is fine. We need to be small Mario anyway. Time is going to be coming up as soon as I hit the axe. It's going to be very soon. There is a final Bowser, but it is an optional fight. Instead, the only thing blocking our progress is a few blocks over this obstacle, or in front of the axe at the end, so we can use the fire crown card to blow them up in time! Hit the final axe, dodge through that small Mario, and complete the Super Mario Challenge run. Whew. We did it, team.
Great job.
That was phenomenal, and there is so much hype in chat about that final level.
Thank you so much, everyone. This run is super cool. I'm so glad I get to showcase it because it is a bit on the longer side, so I know it takes up a lot of time, but I really appreciate everyone who's here for the run, who is donating during the run, hyping up and things in chat. Like, I can see the emotes coming through even though I'm trying to watch the game, so thank you all so much. And of course, this is a Mario game, so bringing that story back that was definitely here the whole time, we do, in fact, get to rescue Princess Peach. She was there the whole time, and she says, "Thank you, Mario. You're my hero." And that is the end of Super Mario Challenge Mode, but not the end of what we get to show today. So, we had an incentive that all of you met. Thank you again so much for your generous donations to charity. We get to show off some of the levels in World 19. So I'm going to skip the credits. We get a little bit more dialogue between Mary O and Yamamura, again, who are sort of our level mentors in terms of how to create levels. We have been roundly ignoring them during the speedrun because we don't care about levels, we care about playing them quickly. But
do I have time for a quick donation before the bonus levels?
Please do.
We had a $100 donation from Taco Von Dutch that says, "Hey Char, finally caught a Mario Maker run again. Good luck and unleash all the new tricks. Also, I remember the past. Yoshi has got to go."
Thank you.
And that donation went towards the Haiku the Robot incentive, so that has already been wholesale met with that donation. Thank you so much for putting that towards that incentive. And in addition to that, we've had a couple new polls open up, including a poll for the character choice in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Right now, Glimmer is by far in the lead, which is the only, I believe it is the only feminine character of the options, so it's a cool choice to be in the lead, but there are some amazing other character options, so if you want to donate towards those, go ahead and get those donations in, and make sure to select the option on the poll.
Very much so. Make sure you help pick the characters. I always think picking the characters is a really cool way to get to participate in the marathon, so definitely encourage that. Thanks you again, Taco, for the incredibly generous donation. Appreciate it. And I'm so glad we met Haiku. All right, let's talk about World 19. So what you see right now is Super Mario Challenge. This is where we started, this is where we ended, this is the story mode. But there are a lot of other modes. One, of course, is being able to actually make levels, Course Maker, but we're more interested in playing them. Course Bot is going to be where we can see every single level in the entire game. First off, you can see the levels I've made. A lot of them are just I showed this one off when I was racing Lizzie at an event. Like, these are just memes. I do have some that are for practicing. So this is, for example, how I practiced 13.2, which is the one where we restarted. I can't actually emulate that in the practice mode, so I just put a little star in the level and then I can practice it anyway. But in addition to that, we actually have all of the levels that we just played through in basically a level select mode. And not only that, we can actually go into the editor for any of them, which means this game is so great for practice. But this is also the only way to get to some bonus levels down here, and that is World 19. So you can see 18.8 was the last level that we played, but there's 12 additional levels down here at the bottom of the screen. I also want to scroll up and just show off. Look at the bling on these little birds. If you have all the gold medals, you 100% the game. You get these little like crowns and medals for them, and it's fantastic. That's the bottom screen. If you touch them, they sing at you, so it's great. Anyway, back to World 19. There are 12 levels here, but we're actually going to showcase 5 of them. I picked the ones that I think are the most fun to watch speedrun, and I avoided all the auto-scrollers because there are like 3 auto-scrollers in World 19. This game loves its auto-scrollers. And we're going to start by going backwards. I'm actually going to start us off with 1912, which is the last level in the entire game. Let's go. I guess time will start now if we have a timer for this section, so there we go. And this is basically your wall jumping exam. If you think back to, I believe it was like 9383, that was our wall jumping tutorial. This is where the game's like, all right, hope you figured it out by now, because that's all you get to do. And there is no ground in most of this level, so this is, you better wall jump or you're not going to make it through. There is also a challenge for this one where you just never touch the ground after jumping, which is super fun to do. But for us, we're going to try to do a couple things here. The big one is, oh, I didn't quite get that. We're going to save this. This is fine. At the end here, we just need to make sure we don't die to all these cannons. So I'm going to take things a little slow. There we go. Make it through. And perfect. We finished our first level already. World 19 can go by really quickly, but this is a fun one to start off with. It just shows the little extra challenge that they put into this world. The next one we're going to do is going to be 19.4, and that is because I talked about the boots. Lizzie, you've been talking about the boots. Let's play the boot level. So you thought the other levels were boots, and they were boots. There were definitely boots in those levels. I'm going to get the safety hat because I don't want to do this level without one. Come on. But this is the level where they just put all of the boots everywhere. There's actually 8 variations on the boot itself, between heels or no heels, wings or no wings. And actually, you know what? Bonus. I'm going to do something that isn't technically the speed run, but will be kind of cool to show off. I need to get one of these boots in order to do it, though. Come on. There we go. This room actually showcases every single boot in the game. This is bonus content. So you can see small, large, wings, no wings, and heels versus not. This room, literally one of each boot, and you can get a medal in this game by actually getting every single boot and trying it on in this one level. I will leave this now. Actually, I don't want this boot. Please leave. I'll leave now because that's actually not part of the speedrun. That's just a fun bonus that you all get for donating to meet this incentive, since I normally do not ever show that off on stream, so hopefully you enjoyed the additional boot content. I guess, Lizzie, do you have a favorite boot in the game after seeing all 8 varieties in one place?
I love that. That felt like a Howl room in a Kirby game. That was so cool.
Right? I do love that one. It's really cute. So there's our boot level. Our next one that we're going to do, I'm going to do 19.5. So earlier we had 2.4, which was our introduction to P-switches. This level is P-switches but in reverse, where instead of using P-switches to sort of provide safety, they become required. So as soon as you can hear the countdown timer, this level tells you right away you're gonna go fast, and the only way to make progress is to have P-switches active. So you can see right now that this is bricks with a P-switch going. That means that if I ever run these P-switches and run out of time, I am very suddenly not standing on anything solid but coins, and those are not enough to prevent me from dying. So I have to move quickly in this level in order to make sure that I don't time out on any of these P-switches. Now, we're speedrunning, so that's not a really big concern for us in terms of the beginning of this level, but it is going to lead to some adventures at the end. See, at the very end of this level, there's a case for not going the way the game intends for you to do, and actually skipping one of the P-switches. So here, instead of activating this P-switch right here, I am going to hopefully do a triple jump and land on this piece of platform. This was coins in our normal one. You can see there's this whole maze going on of coins that normally would have been our path through the level, but by skipping one P-switch at the end, we can get rid of the level itself, magically make it turn into coins, and actually skip through the entire ending and cut directly to the flagpole. So that's such a fun one to pull off, and such a cool example of like speedrunning strategy when you try to cut through levels like this. Our next one, I'm going to do 19.8, we're going to end on 19.2. So 19.8 is another level where there's 2 ways through every single section. One way where you sort of go, you know, I don't feel like playing this, and you just use a key, so here's our key. And another one where you creatively figure out how to get around the key requirement. So for every one of these, there's this door. Well, instead of going through the door, I can spin jump on the thwomp and get up to here without needing to use the door at all. I'm then going to have a bonus key that I can use to completely skip a different section of the level. So here, I'm going to use this one. I need to wait for that chain chomp. Please get out of my way. Thank you. And I'm going to use the key to skip the chain chomp section because it's awful. But I'm actually going to skip another way too. There's just skips on top of skips here because I'm going to use this P-switch to skip these blocks. Turns out I don't even need to use a key to skip that section. I can just use the P-switch instead. Here, I'll go ahead and grab a key, avoid these Cheep Cheeps, the flying Cheep Cheeps, and we've got one extra key down here to skip having to actually use Yoshi, because why would we want to use Yoshi? I'm sorry, there was one more Yoshi in the game. I forgot that we had bonus levels. But we're going to ditch him again and just have him help us damage boost through those Hammer Brothers to get the final key and skip having to actually damage the fire or the Hammer Brothers and use their hammers to take out the Wigglers, which is the other way around this. So this level is chaotic. It's a lot of fun to route for speedrunning because there's so many ways to make progress. There's so many different ways to go through each of those sections, but that's a fast one, so it's a fun one to do. Our final level is either going to take 30 tries or 1. We'll see how it goes. This is 19.2, and this is the shortest level in the game for speedrunning. You see all these tracks in the background? See that whole path? You're supposed to follow pretty much all of those tracks on a very slow-moving platform to get to the end. There is no ground, but there are enemies, and that can give us just what we need to make it through. This level, if done correctly, is 6 seconds long, so I'm going to focus. And there we go! That's time for the bonus levels! That is the shortest level in the game in the speedrun. That is one of the coolest strats in the speedrun in its entirety. I am so glad that people donated and that you all met the incentive, so I got to showcase some of these extra bonus levels that you normally don't get to see as part of the run. So that is the final level that I will do for World 19. That is 5 out of 5. So thank you so much everyone for joining in today. Once again, I have been Char Bunny. You can find me at twitch.tv/char_bunny. I run this game as well as Love 3, generally a platforming person, so really excited about those. I'll also be commentating a few runs coming up this week and hosting later as well. So I'll be back. I'm looking forward to spending more time with all of you in this marathon. Lizzie, would you like to do any final shout outs as well?
Sure, you can find me at twitch.tv/Lizzyberry22. That 22 is very important. If you just put Lizzyberry, you will not find me. You will find someone else, so be sure and add that 22.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it. Roadkill, back to you.
Thank you so much. That run was phenomenal, even if our poor Yoshi met a miserable demise. Coming up are all kinds of more fabulous runs for the Lady Arcaders Super Showcase. We're going to be heading into a quick intermission, so stick around and just see all the amazing stuff we have coming up.